Yeah, you too.
Mm-mm.
Everybody in?
Yes.
Okay. So, good evening and welcome to the October 6th meeting of the Scituate Conservation Commission. Before we get started, I just got to go through the spiel. Um, there's two things here. This meeting's being held virtually as an alternate means of public access pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, temporarily amending certain provisions of the open meeting law. You hereby advise that this meeting and all communications during this meeting may be recorded by the town of Scituate in accordance with the open meeting law. And the Scituate Conservation Commission is providing an environment of respect during our meetings. We ask all members to interact in a polite manner, even when there's disagreement. We value the participation of our community and want all participants, including marginalized and minoritized communities, to feel welcome and respected. And we ask committee members and all that participate to commit to those standards and to support and respect our community. That said, we have an agenda, um, and I need a motion to accept the agenda. I would like to say at the end if we could chat about our open space or woodlands for a minute, if this time.
If this time. Okay, I make a motion. We accept the agenda as written with the add-on of open space.
Okay.
I'll second
That,
that.
that was from Brendan. All in favor? Eric,
Yes.
Roger,
Yes.
Robbie,
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Thank you. Okay. And just so all of you know, the reason you get called out that way is because that's the list that Jen gave me. It's the same, it's the same list as every week. No priorities, just that's how you fall in the heap. Um, okay. So First Cliff Revetment Rehabilitation, and that's the town of Scituate. We have a representative from Forth.
Yes, and I do think we need to open it.
Oh, yeah, sorry. On October 6th, 6 p.m., the Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws for notice of intent filed by the Town of Scituate for the rehabilitation of First Cliff revetments in Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the meetings available on the agenda posted on our website. Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Sean McCarthy with the Scituate DPW.
Good evening, Sean.
Good evening. With me tonight also is Carrie Marshall from Foth Engineering, who's been working on the permits for this project. I'm going to back up just a little bit with a little bit of history. The next two projects followed up on the agenda have gone through the same thing. These revetments have been damaged in federally declared storm events. Following the event, the engineering department goes out and identifies damages that could be claimable for 75% reimbursement. These cliffs have gone through 4 federally declared storm events, so we would go out, prepare damage plans, FEMA would come out, agree, disagree. We would start to put the permit plans together, and we were hit with another storm. We had to identify which storm damaged which stones. So it's been a record-keeping nightmare, if I can say the least. And it's been going on for a long time. I think I'll let Carrie talk about the resource areas. But just so you know, the access points chosen have been used in the past for damage repairs, and obviously the length of time, site conditions change, and I know that's come up for First Cliff. And because it needs federal consistency, not only does it go through all the state permitting agencies, it goes through the federal permitting agencies. So it's much easier to prepare the plans showing access points. If they're not needed, that's okay. We had permission to use them. Rather than try to go back through all these agencies and say, we'd really like to go in between these houses rather than what was shown on the plan and start this all over again. We would rather ask for permission to access at these points and not need them than have to go back to the agencies. And I'll have Carrie describe some of the work for you.
Thank you, Sean.
Sure. Thanks, Sean.
Okay.
Oh, good. So like Sean said, the project is proposed to repair the revetment at First Cliff, which was damaged by federally declared storms. So the work occurs primarily within the FEMA designated PW areas and within the previously authorized geometry of the revetment. It focuses on the reconstruction of the breakwater at Crow Point and then repairs along about 1,600 linear feet of revetment at First Cliff. The resource areas at the site that the work is expected to impact are land subject to coastal storm flowage, coastal beach, barrier beach, coastal beach, rocky intertidal shore, coastal bank, and barrier beach coastal dune. We've also worked with MEPA and other agencies throughout the MEPA process to minimize impacts to resource areas, including those previously listed, and macroalgae, which was a habitat of concern that came up during the MEPA process. So worked with them to make sure we had a strategy to minimize impact to the macroalgae. And then, as Sean touched on, we have proposed staging areas at the northern end and the southern end. So in the northern lot, minimal grading is expected to be necessary. There will be fencing around it for public safety and to protect the equipment. The pre-construction conditions will be restored after construction. The alternative access path that was shown on the plans is only intended for access. No storage is proposed in that area. And the town will secure easements prior to bidding the work. And then on the southern end, again, minimal grading is expected, fencing for public safety and equipment, pretty similar to the northern end, except that any beach grass plantings will be replaced in kind. Also, as part of the revetment repairs, there will be a seaward construction access berm, as well as a landward sand access berm. So on the seaward access berm, at its widest, it's about 36 feet wide, and the proposed work includes an 18-inch layer of compatible cobble material below a topping layer of angular stone. So the cobble material is proposed to be left in place after the work is completed as nourishment, and then the angular stone is more to provide the necessary support for the construction equipment. And then the landward sand access was proposed where there's room along the site. It's about 550 feet long, 20 feet wide, and would be constructed of clean sand with minimal fines, and also left in place as nourishment after the work is completed. I think that kind of summarizes all the components. On the screen shown now, though, you'll see some of the yellow and blue areas. So that shows the areas of macroalgae. So yellow shows where there's an overlap between the macroalgae habitat and the proposed work. And then working through the MEPA process with NOAA and NIMS, ended up deciding that the path forward that they suggested was to relocate those stones with attached macroalgae, which is also rockweed, and to leave those in place after they were moved once to avoid putting them back to their original position, since that would induce more impacts. So I think that kind of summarizes everything shown on the plan. So I can go ahead and open it up for any questions the commission might have.
Okay, thank you. And again, your name is?
Carrie.
Carrie. Thank you,
Carrie
Carrie.
Marshall.
And Jeremy, yeah, Carrie Marshall, and then Jeremy Packard with Foth is also on the call.
Great.
Yeah, thanks, Carrie. Before we open it up for discussion from the commission, I just Jeremy Packard with Fourth Infrastructure. I just want to highlight the two kind of crux components of the project are the seaward berm access, as well as use of adjacent properties and access thereof. And I just want to highlight that the seaward berm, the construction methodology for that was worked out with the review agencies, CZM, DEP, NOAA, during the MEPA review process. And it was through that process that the idea to leave the 18 inches of cobble underneath the temporary access in place as nourishment, that came as a request from the reviewers, as well as the landward access berm. And then in regards to use of public properties, I know the commission is pretty used to this with other projects in town. But the town's engineering department, DBW, standard operating procedure is to get the approvals in place, and then they work with each individual landowner or homeowner to get individual access easements and agreements for all the properties necessary. All right, so particularly, the property all the way at the northern end of the project near Crow Point, where we had previously used that lot for staging and construction historically. We recognize that lot has changed ownership, and while that the owner is in support of the project, there's other planned work going on at that lot that has authorizations in place. And so those discussions about the use and the restoration and the timing and the schedule of it, or the lack thereof completely, would all be worked out between the town and the homeowners before the project even went out to bid. So I just wanted to highlight that. And that was all I had. Nice job, though. Thanks, Gary.
Thank you. Jen, do you want to comment to start with?
I will add that the DEP comments were about other permitting pieces that would be needed after receiving an order of conditions. Just to keep in mind, there's more to do after orders are issued.
Okay. Thank you. Right. Why don't I start with Penny on this one? We'll alternate. We've got a few more of these. Penny?
Okay. I really don't have any questions. I know it's a big project. I know it's something that needs to be done. And there's a lot of work still to do. And the easements, of course, the town to get those is going to be big. And, but I just know we have to do it. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you. Brendan?
Yeah, I don't have any questions on this right now. Thank you.
Okay. Eric?
Yeah, no, this definitely needs to happen. This work obviously is critical for the protection of First Cliff and all residences along that revetment area. And I think my only question, and I do apologize if this was already introduced, but let's say on this proposed construction staging area opposite of the Crow Point end, is that access point? Can you access the entire limit of work from that side, or is the north section sort of critical in terms of access?
I can take that one. So the having staging areas at either end eases the construction burden and schedule. But we have the access shown for the entire length. So if we did if we weren't able to secure access from that north side at Crow Point, we would be able to do it from the southern side. Or maybe with some discussions with other homeowners for access across their property. But the idea is that we permit that access berm over the entire length, and then we're able to access it from either side.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I understand the process. You need to go through the process of getting all access points. I just didn't know if for one reason or another, one site or another, you couldn't get access to if there was alternate means of access. So basically, you have contingency plans, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Yes.
That are feasible. Okay.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. It would increase costs for sure because it would increase schedule, but it could be done.
Yep. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Roger,
No questions. Thank you.
Robbie.
Good looking project. I have nothing.
Okay, thank you. In the audience,
I'm unmuting Mr. Ornberger.
Bill, you're on.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening. Bill Orenberg. I represent Mr. and Mrs. Harold, who on the north end of this, and I have had conversations with Jeremy, who's been very informative and professional about this. And last Thursday and recently, what the concern is at the outset, as I said in the letter, which is filed with the commission, is the Heralds very much know the necessity of this project and are very much in support of this, as Jeremy said at the outset. But as the commission, some of the commission members are aware, there are already two projects and two orders of conditions which have been issued for the raising and reconstruction of a beach cottage, and also the building of a pier and dock system there, all of which have been approved, and we anticipate it'll be done well before this. And Grady Engineering, we also forward just to kind of superimpose the areas of access and for staging and all this stuff would require the demolition of all the new improvements. And also there's as you may recall, there's a very lush native revegetation program that doesn't exist there that is going to be part of this. And so there has to be an alternate means of access. And as you're probably aware, is I know the town is the applicant on this, but this is an integral part of this. Of the primary part of the staging and access of this is located on the Herald's property, which they have not consented to. And we have discussed with Jeremy Packard about what are the options, how we're going to do this. The agent was kind enough earlier today to give me a brief update that that's something that they're looking at. But to be candid with you, from a Herald standpoint, we very much want this done. And if they're going to access this, because otherwise there's an enormous sum of money in new construction that would be disrupted and basically raised. And I don't think that's in anyone's interest to do that. So what we'd encourage, although we're very much in favor of this project, is if in fact it is going to be accessed from the north side, unless, on the easterly side of this, then that's fine, and the Heralds give a letter of support, as most of the community probably would also. But we're very reticent to close and vote this hearing until the plans that are before you take these access easements off, because as you can see with the superimposed plan from Grady, it will require the demolition of two projects that are already approved by the commission and a number of state agencies. And we were probably going to commence work on this in the spring. So I don't want to put my clients in a position where all of a sudden they're an impediment or bad guys if we're being told right now there's an alternate way to do it. If there's an alternate way to do it, then I would I would recommend, or I'd request to the commission that this matter, and this is not second and third cliff. I have a number of clients who've made inquiries with us on that, and I think those things are stellar with no questions. But in this case, I'd ask that this meeting be continued until the plans are revised to show the access over that, because I don't want to, and the Heralds don't have any uh, the Heralds don't have any intention of, they don't want to have to appeal this to DEP or something through some inadvertence or something where all of a sudden there's going to be an eminent domain taking over their property, particularly when we're being told that there are alternate means of achieving the same project. And so that's the extent of our commentary.
Thank you, Bill. Jeremy or Terry?
Yeah, happy to jump in there. Yeah, Bill, thanks for all that, and I totally understand where you guys are coming from. We were not aware, we've been working this project since 2018, and just got it to this point where we're able to kind of file permits, and so we were not aware of those permitted projects, those licensed projects on that property when we had showed that. As it stands right now, the town has, even with a vote tonight and an order of conditions issued for this, we still have federal and state permitting to get through. And the town also, even with all those authorizations, still has no right to use that property without property owner permission. There's never been any discussion of eminent domain. To my knowledge, that's never been done for a coastal protection project. My experience, I've done a lot of the seawalls for the town on Oceanside Drive, and when there are homeowners that are unwilling to get easements, those properties are simply skipped over and moved beyond. And so just getting the order tonight, all it allows us to do is move this project forward for permitting. And like we said earlier in this meeting, the town still, as they do for all their projects, has to coordinate with each individual homeowner and get permissions for each property. And if those aren't able to be issued, then we would make changes to the final plans that go out to bid that reflect those easement and access agreements. And so I would ask that the commission consider closing this hearing tonight. And with the understanding that we still have some work to do in actually securing these easements and getting use of the properties.
Okay. Attorney Arnberger.
Yeah, the only thing, Jeremy, I'd say to that is if we've already been told that I'm already telling you we're not going to give the easements that would require the destruction of a cottage and also a pier at great expense in planting plans. And so we've been told verbally that there's other alternate ways of doing it. All that I'm simply asking is take off the plan that is part of this order. Take off the plan part of the order, showing where these easements are, and very simply show the easterly access is that, and we have no problems. And what I'm saying, if that can be done quickly and submitted, then at the next meeting or whenever the commission's available, you can do that. And I don't see that if this is a project that's going to take a substantial amount of time, and I understand to obtain other permits, but I don't want to, because among other things, the Heralds are very much in favor of this project, and we don't want to get off on the wrong foot and be forced to file an appeal in case 2 years from now or a year from now, just to preserve rights that they have. And that's something that we'd have to do. So to avoid all of that, it's a very simple thing. And we're not asking that this thing be delayed 6 months or 3 months or anything. It just very simply modify the plan to show that easement off of their property, then everything at the next meeting or whenever they're available, they can close it and vote it.
Well, that's a great argument, and that's That's why you're an attorney, I suppose. So I would propose here, because I understand where he's coming from. I would ask that Sean, speak up at any time, because I am about to speak for the town here. So
Well,
I would
right.
like to,
Sean?
I think yeah, Sean, unless you want to jump in before I say what I'm going to say.
No, I was just going to say it would never be our intention to tear down a brand new pier or a dwelling
Right.
to access this, and it's really about timing. And it wouldn't be the first time that the permitting process has taken so long. Project sites have changed hands, and you have to adjust. And like you're saying, Mr. Orenberger, they want to do this in the spring. I don't think we'll have our permits by then. So rightfully so, we wouldn't go through there.
Can I ask a question, Sean or Jeremy or Bill? I don't see anywhere on this plan that says there's an access easement. I'm seeing a statement that says proposed alternate construction access area. So I'm unless I'm missing something, I don't see anything about an easement on either one of those locations. They're saying proposed, perhaps that could be removed to, and again, it says proposed. It doesn't even say that will happen. So I'm a little befuddled as to how this all of a sudden turned into an easement.
It's because the town doesn't have ownership of those, and right. I mean, you understand.
I understand that,
but
but this doesn't say easement. This plan does not say an easement. It simply says a proposed area, and that could change. So I guess, I mean, we've been through these projects before. We've had multiple coastal projects, and we've gone through great efforts to design like a berm down in Humrock, and then that all came unglued because there weren't enough easements from one of the reasons. So I guess that what you're explaining is, in order to move through the process of getting funding and all this, you need to have a plan that you can submit. I'm just wondering if is it we don't have anything that says this is an easement. So it's almost like, I'm not an attorney, but none of this seems very binding to me.
Agreed.
Am I missing something here?
I'm actually going to play advocate for Mr. Orenberger a bit, because what I've heard twice with him speaking up is the appeal component of this. I don't think the town has any interest in fighting an appeal to DEP, and not that it would be, but I do think it would be best to continue this hearing, just the First Cliff hearing. And Mr. Orenberger, I would request that we have a meeting maybe with the homeowners, yourself, the town of Scituate, and Fulth, and talk through what maybe could be used on that site. As Sean had said, we certainly would propose, demolishing anything that you guys built new, but maybe there are some things that we could do on site on areas where you're not proposing any structures that still allow us to get access through there. Maybe not on the beach side to the left, but kind of to I guess that would be the north of the house. We could superimpose the site plan as we have it now, and see if there are components of that lot that we may be able to use, because it is a very strategic location for this construction access. And maybe we come up with some kind of a revised area that allows that home and the pier to remain unaffected, but allows the town to use a portion of that site in the off season, maybe when it might be amenable for the homeowners to allow that use. Understanding that there would be a complete restoration of the site, any plantings that were there, complete restoration of existing conditions after the work happened. And so I think in these next 2 weeks, if we were able to have that discussion, come to an agreement, change, maybe the geometry of that staging area. If we're not able to get to an agreement, we remove it in its entirety per the homeowner's request, if they truly have no intention of giving the town permission to use this lot. But I do think that discussion saves us from like has been mentioned, going to DEP for an appeal on this.
And Mr. Chairman, if I can speak, I agree with Jeremy. We're very amenable to having a meeting. The object here isn't to be isn't to do this. We just want to see how we can do this so we can go forward with our projects so they're not demolished in the future. And albeit I know Sean and I agree with what he says, but I don't want things, unfortunately, at DEP or whatever it is, but no one wants the time, expense, or anything else to do with this. And Jeremy, if there's viable alternatives, then certainly we consider them.
Can I just also add, and I had a lot of history with this project before the Harolds had this property. The Michaud family was there, and we did a lot of work for them, and we worked through some issues of gaining access with them. It hasn't been as developed as the Harolds have done that, but there was always cooperation there. And having been through multiple storms, including the blizzard of '78, right now this is a maintenance project, which isn't nearly as significant. But in the case of a bad storm, this area becomes really can be decimated. And in that case, can't wait for the town, FEMA, whatever, to get in and fix this. So I really would think both sides could sit down and sort out something that would benefit them long term.
And I agree with what Frank's saying. So we're certainly amenable, Jeremy, to yourself, Sean, and Harold, to sit down and show us. And I don't know, Jeremy, have you seen, because that just came kind of over the weekend, hot off the press, our engineers Grady overlaying what they see as what is presently proposed in the encroachments and
why don't you guys, Bill? Thanks. Why don't you, if we're going to continue this one for your discussion, why don't you folks see what you can do to get together? Because we've got multiple ones.
That information, Bill. Thank you.
All right. I get one quick question though. I have not heard the term macroalgae area before.
Can anybody take this one? I knew you were going to ask it.
Sure. So that came up during our MIPA review process. And it's kind of like the rockweed, just rocks that are out there that have the attached thick algae on them.
Macroalgae is kind of an umbrella term, but specifically it's a bunch of rockweed all along the shoreline.
And you'll make attempts to protect it? Or at least...
That's what we've been directed to do.
Wow. Okay.
Yep.
Good luck with that one.
Thank you.
All right. So I guess I need a motion to continue this. How quickly, Jen, can we get them back into the loop?
Well, I don't know if you want to hear from any other abutters, and the next meeting is October 20th.
Okay. Do we have anybody else for this hearing?
I
see a phone number.
Yeah, I'm going to unmute the 508 phone number.
Okay.
They might need to hit some buttons on their end. All right, they're unmuted.
I unmuted.
Yes. You want to state your name
My
and
name
address?
is Nick. Yep. Sure. Nick Damasio, 16 Roberts Drive.
Good evening.
Thank you for letting me speak. My question is not directed specifically to any of the access points, and I'm clearly in favor of what we're trying to do to save First Cliff. But we have had extensive construction on Second Cliff and First Cliff for quite a while now. And my question relates to the bridge, the causeway, coming on to First and Second Cliff. If this project has considered the additional wear and tear to that bridge and what could potentially happen to it.
Okay. Thank you. Sean?
Yeah, we really haven't expanded beyond the limits of damages for this. We do have a foreshore study that talks about recommendations all along the coastline from Minot to Hummerock. And we're really using that as a guide to make repairs. But it's focused on reimbursable damages that were identified put into a project worksheet, which is FEMA's way of creating PWs for these jobs, showing them on the plan and making the repairs only in those locations at this point.
So I guess, is there any way, Mr. Damasio, I would shorten up his concern of the residents first and second cliff with the additional wear and tear? I know this has come up before and there was work done to the bridge to bolster the strength. I mean, I know before they had to talk about short loads. You know, you can't have a full trailer load of stone going out or concrete. I don't know. I'm assuming those are the kind of issues that would need to be thought about.
Well, the Edward Foster Bridge. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yes, we have internally. We've done some survey out there to see what we can do to elevate the roadway at the low points where it does flood. I think in the early 2000s, they bolstered that bridge up so that they could complete the sewer project that was up there. And currently that bridge does not have a weight limit.
Mr. Damasio, I mean,
Okay, no,
I mean
I'm not the one
that's
to
your
say
point,
okay
right?
with it.
That's your
all.
question.
Yeah, that's my point. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
And I think it's a good
Whatever
one.
you need to do.
You know, just taking those things into consideration, obviously traffic and all those
Right.
sort of issues.
Yep.
This is sort of
Right.
the first
Yep.
step in this process, but it's a good one, and it's good to know that the DPW. But I do remember it was the sewer project that they did a fair amount of work to that. Okay. Thank you.
That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, Jen, when do you think we want to? What's
The 20th, she said.
okay?
Let's do the 20th.
I'll
Of
make a
October.
motion to
Okay,
continue.
is that good for both?
I'm just going to ask that question.
Yeah, Sean, Jeremy.
I think, I think what we'll do is we'll get that plan overlaid and circulate it to that team that we had discussed with the homeowners and their attorney, DPW and full, and try to get a meeting later this week, or even towards the middle of this week. And Jen, if we get you a revised plan back by say early to middle next week, would that be enough time?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So
Right.
let's shoot for the 20th. And if we have to continue it, then we'll send a request.
Thank you. Okay, I need a motion.
Okay, I make a motion to continue to October 20th, the first cliff revetment.
Okay, that's Penny. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
From Brendan. All in favor. Eric?
Yes.
Roger?
Yes.
Robbie?
Yes.
And Frank, yes. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On October 6th, 2025, 6 p.m., the Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40, the Massachusetts General Laws, and Section 30700, Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws, for the notice of intent filed the Town of Scituate for rehabilitation of second cliff revetments in Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the meetings available on the agenda posted on the website. And so I guess it's the same team. Who'd like to go?
Sure, I can give a quick overview. Very similar to the first cliff revetment project. So the actual revetment design and the seaward access berm design is very similar. But the main differences for second cliff are the staging areas, and then there's dune restoration at the southern end. So staging areas, there's one along Peggy Beach
and
Road.
you heard this guy.
Hold
Bill?
on.
Bill? Oh.
I can't
We
find
gotta-
it fast enough.
We got to
Give me a
unmute
second.
Bill.
No, let him talk. Let him talk. We don't. No.
All right.
Let's not totally. Make,
Okay. I think he is muted.
oh. Okay.
All right. So two staging areas, one along Peggotty Beach Road and another in the Peggotty Beach parking lot. Neither of them are expected to require any grading, and fencing will be installed similar to the first cliff staging areas, will be restored after construction. And then there is the dune restoration near at the beach access location. So if you go one more sheet
It's down
over.
at Peggotty.
Yeah, so here there's a construction access path between the access berm and the southern staging area. And then there is this proposed dune nourishment. So that also came up through the MIPA process, specifically through, I believe, CZM. So through all the agency comments, that was requested to restore the elevation of the walkway there. But other than that, the revetment and access berm similar to First Cliff.
Great, thank you.
And just to be
Jeremy?
specific on this this dune restoration here, this is from the Peggotty Beach parking lot, and it's that cut through the dunes where when you walk into the beach, you've kind of got the dunes on either side. And this, like Carrie had mentioned, this came from a request from CZM to basically fill in that cut through the dune there to maintain kind of a consistent elevation, flood control. Stop wave action from coming through and washing sand up into the parking lot. And then with the dune restoration, we have some plantings proposed as well as a seasonal mopey mat, essentially to maintain access through there. So as Carrie mentioned, 2 staging areas still on this project, but these are both located to the south. So we will have that longer access, but frankly, there was just nowhere better to access it from the north. And then on the macroalgae relocation, Carrie, on this one, they did not want us to put it back, correct?
So on second cliff, on first cliff, moving but not putting it back. On second cliff, not relocating. DMF submitted a letter through the MIPA review process that requested that we leave macroalgae in place.
That was it. The relocation was so substantial that they were like, never mind.
Okay. I just thought maybe they didn't want it at all, so it didn't get on the beach.
Very nice.
Okay. Let's start out with Jen, do you have anything you want to?
Similar to the other one, there is other permitting to do after they receive their order of conditions.
We'll start out with Brendan.
Yeah, again, I think this is all pretty necessary. I really don't have any questions. Thank you.
Okay. Eric?
My only question, I guess, is relative to the access point at the ramp going up to Peggotty Beach. There is already what appears to be some level of restoration plantings there. Does this work that's being proposed substantially impact the existing dune vegetation? I know that you said that the grade will be changed, so I presume that it will. And this is just I can see by the plan that it's not, but was there any consideration to change the access path from a straight line to one that is maybe a little bit more resilient to overbank during significant storm events, as it typically does, and wash out down that straight line path? I know that it's not being proposed, but I was wondering if there was any discussion about altering that access path once construction had been completed.
Yeah, so the only real discussion of alterations in that was restoring the dune elevation after construction, and the construction access wouldn't affect any of the existing plantings because it's going through where you have that existing, the current traffic going through anyway, and the impacts there. So essentially, the contractors use it for machinery, and then just place sand to essentially fill in that one divot, and then they would replant. Everywhere up to where the existing plantings stop, right? So they put those 3 front on center, and essentially it all just looked like one uniform planted dune at the end. There was never any consideration for, zigzagging through the dune or anything, just to avoid additional impacts. The intent is just use the existing straight line access that we have today.
Thanks, Jeremy. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Roger?
Yeah, hey, just a couple of points of clarification for myself. On that access point, you said you were going to raise the grade. What is that going to look like? Because right now, if it's what I'm thinking, there's that mat that goes through there, so people who are mobility challenged have an easier path to get in there. How much of a difference is that going to change?
I think we have a section that shows exactly that, right, Karen?
Yeah, if you go to section K, so if you go down a few more sheets. A little closer to the end. It might be the last sheet.
Yeah, it's probably the last one.
No, not this one. Dune restoration
Scroll down a little
profile.
bit.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
just
there
the
we go.
one.
J and K. Yep. Here we go. Yeah, so this shows, this is a profile view in line with the path, and then a section view that is perpendicular to the path. So that top one that's kind of in line with it, you can see it's really not a substantial amount of filling. It's just bringing that grade up a little bit. That crest elevation, 14, is the average crest elevation on either side right now, right? So as you're walking through the dune right now, the dune on either side of you is about at that elevation 14. And so we just match that on either side. And then we've got these 10-to-1 slopes coming down, which are, comfortable to walk on. And as far as accessibility goes, no issues, bringing a wheelchair or anything up, those type of slopes. And then down below, you can see how it feels more pronounced when you're out there, but really it's about 2 feet of fill there to match dune elevation on either side. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but that's kind of the idea of what that looks like.
It did. I didn't see that last page. That's helpful to see. I do know that those type of access points are very important to
They get a
some
lot of
members of
use.
our community, and I just want to make sure we're not limiting them or creating an undue challenge for them. But that looks somewhat reasonable.
Thank you. Robbie?
No question for me on this.
Thank you. Penny?
Yeah. I feel the same way as they did with the other one. It has to get done. If that's it, we got to do it best we can. And this firm, definitely, they've taken into consideration what they have to do afterwards to make everything perfect again. Thank you.
Thank you, Penny. Do we have anybody in the audience on this hearing? This is for Second Cliff revetments.
I have one hand raised. Yep. Unmuting Mr. Struzula. Yep.
Yes, hi, good evening. Phil Struzula, 82 Crescent Ave. I just want to say that we certainly support this proposal, but a little disappointed that it didn't extend around the rest of Second Cliff. It was our understanding when we worked with the town back in 2018, a number of the neighbors, that the entire Second Cliff was under consideration for re-armoring, particularly because of the Riley storm. And I'm not sure how it went to just this smaller portion. Is there plans to extend this in a secondary proposal, or is this it for a while? Anyway, in that time, we were told that this would probably take 2 to 3 years to come to fruition. So I think this has been about 6, but.
Sean or
I can take it, Sean.
Karen?
Jump in
Sure.
anywhere you'd like here. But yeah, these the reconstruction areas that we're showing come right from the FEMA damage claim. We said PWs a couple times on this call, project worksheets. So that is kind of those are the bounds that you have to work in, because that's all that FEMA is willing to reimburse the town for. I'm not sure of any discussions with the town and abutters, kind of on the northern end of this. But as far as my understanding is, this is the reconstruction area, and there are no plans for anything outside of what's shown here.
I believe those discussions, and I didn't have those personally, but some of the other folks in the group did, were with Dan Smith, and that Riley was going to be, because of the damage from Riley that we would be eligible for some reconstruction here and rearmoring, which there is significant scouring of the area above the current revetment, which is not in great shape either.
Sean, would you like to take that?
I was just going to say, take that down. We can take a look at it in the field. And when it comes to construction, separate any repairs outside of FEMA reimbursement as an ad alternate. And if the town supports paying for them without reimbursement, we can award the contract that way.
So I'm sure a number of neighbors here on this end would be happy to meet with you at any time.
Fantastic. Yep.
So Sean, would that be a separate process for permitting or design that would have to be done in addition to this, or an amendment?
It would only because this plan has already gone through the MEPA process.
Okay.
And as Jeremy said, they're all based on the damage locations.
Right.
FEMA puts coordinates on them. They're getting pretty fancy nowadays.
It sounds like a pretty tedious process to get through them. That's for sure.
It is, and they're consolidating these storm damages because they know it's impossible to move each rock based on each storm.
Well, that makes a little more sense.
So they're doing a little something that they usually don't do.
Okay. Well, hopefully it keeps moving forward.
I agree. Yeah.
Anybody else? No, I think I don't have any questions. All right. Take a
Can we
motion.
close this one then?
I think so.
I make a motion to close, and are we gonna issue, Jen?
Can we just close and then
Okay, I
we'll
make a motion
get
to
everything drafted?
close.
I'll second that.
That's from Brendan. All in favor, Eric,
Yes.
Roger,
Yes.
Robbie,
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Great. Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you. On to Minot Beach revetment, right?
Yes.
On October 6th, 6 p.m., Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Mass General Laws, and Section 30700, Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws for notice of intent filed by the Town of Scituate for rehabilitation of the Minot Beach revetment in Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the meetings available on the agenda posted on the website. So whichever one of you wants to go first.
Take it away, Carrie.
Take it away.
Sure. So again, a lot of similarities with first and second cliff on the main revetment section. But at Minot, there's also we called it a seawall toe protection structure in the filing. So there's a main revetment on the seaward edge, and then there is a smaller revetment that just goes along the seawall there. So there's both repair and reconstruction. As you can see here, the kind of honeycomb shape is reconstruction, and then the grayed out is repair. So a little bit of both on both the main revetment and the seawall toe protection structure. There's one small staging area off the road. And then different from first and second cliff, instead of having a seaward access berm for construction access, it is proposed to use the infield area. So between those two revetment structures, proposing to place compatible material, use that for construction access, and then leave in place afterwards. And then kind of similar to second on the macroalgae, because we are working from the infield, which was a strategy that we came up with, working with through the MEPA process and with the agencies. That was our methodology for minimizing the impact to resource areas and that macroalgae habitat. So I think that mainly covers the differences between the other projects. I'll open it up for any other questions again.
Okay. Jen?
Same comment. Other permitting needed once they're done with us, and would probably have similar conditions for most of them. Not ready with all of those conditions at this point, but just a reminder, there's more permitting once we're through here.
Thank you. All right, Eric.
So I guess my only question is in that sort of, I guess if I'm understanding correctly, we'll call it the infield zone between the
We've been calling it infield, yeah.
between the seawall and the seawall protection revetment area, and then there's the land under ocean sort of in between, and then you have the sort of external revetment that is going to be repaired in that sort of middle area that you'll be introducing new material of similar likeness to what's like there already. Was there habitat and sort of species analysis done for anything that's in that sort of intertidal area?
No, honestly, it's kind of a dead zone. It's like a low oxygen, water gets in there and it doesn't really escape too much, and there's some murky pools but there was really nothing there of value. It was just kind of mucky so the idea is to fill it with 18 inches of compatible material, which we had taken grab samples of. We did a composite grab sample, had that tested for sediment grain size, and came up with a mixture of 60% cobble. Oh no, I'm sorry, 40% cobble, 60% sand. So the contractor will bring that in 18 inches across the entire area there, and they'll use that material to gain themselves access from the backside of that fronting revetment as they need to reconstruct the structure. And the reason we did that from the infield was because it gets pretty deep, honestly, when you get to the seaward side of the fronting revetment. And if we put any kind of an access berm to allow machinery to get out in front, we would have chased the slope so far that it would have been this big footprint out in front of the structure. So we came up with this scheme here instead. And again, this initially during the MUPA process, we had that seaward access berm shown, and we really tried to hold firm on that. And then through those discussions with the reviewers, we kind of landed on something like this because everybody agreed that the containing the impacts to just the larger footprint of the fronting revetment and the seawall in that infilled area in between, which everybody agreed had low resource value, would be the best approach to minimize impacts.
I guess I'm just wondering, in all of that, was a study done for habitat and species of special concern?
No, like a shellfish study or it's not mapped for NHESP.
Right, but no one looked at it, I guess is my question. I just want to get confirmation whether someone looked at it to see if those habitats existed or if there's a special consideration for species of concern.
Yeah, there was no separate like biological study or anything. No fisheries had looked at it, but yeah, there was no biological study performed.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that answer. It's just one of those areas that you certainly can't see from the public-facing side because of that concrete revetment wall that currently exists. So
yeah,
I didn't know what it looks like in situ, so I didn't know if anyone had done any studies on that. So I appreciate the answer. Thank you, Jeremy.
No problem.
Roger?
Yeah, on that, the one question I have is there going to be any impact to that concrete barrier that's existing that Eric just referenced that goes right along the side of the road, or you expect that to be kind of
just next to the staging area where they have to gain themselves access? But the seawall itself, there's no work performed or rehabilitation or raising of the seawall itself. They may have to over at the bottom left of the photo where they actually gain access to the beach. Sometimes they cut themselves like a notch or something to get their access through, and then just put a plug in it after, just reinforced concrete plug, but no substantial seawall work proposed.
And then if they do have to cut into it. They're going to remove that material off site.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Robbie?
A couple of questions, I guess. When work is not occurring, where will materials and equipment be stored for this project?
Yeah, so it's a really small staging area. Luckily, with revetment work, you don't need a lot of machinery. So the idea is to keep the heavy excavator that they use up on the street there, and that staging area shown on the street, protected from access, cones and fencing and that kind of thing, signage for the vehicles. But the actual the material is proposed to be kind of kept in that infield area there, along with the material that they place for access. And it's really just, it's crushed stone, bedding stone and the armor stone, and then some geotextile. But unlike like a building project where you have a lot of timber and even concrete, where you have rebar cages and everything else, these are revetment projects. There's not a lot that would get damaged by having it out there, and it would just be the contractor's responsibility to maintain the coastal protection there on site. Look for long range weather forecasts, make sure everything is kind of buttoned up and avoids any damage if there are incoming storms. But yeah, given the limited area that we have, we do need to use that infilled area for some of the material.
Thank you. And then what would be the anticipated duration of this piece of work?
This one here, I bet this is probably 6 months of construction.
Okay. And then finally, I think one of the other commissioners mentioned the seawall and a portion of the seawall being removed to gain access. Is that accurate?
Yeah, on the bottom left side where they have that construction staging area, because right now it's just the staircase, like a small staircase that goes down. And so typically, and they do this on Oceanside Drive too, where they demo like a small portion of the seawall, just enough to be able to get themselves access, and then re-pour that after.
Right. Does the plan set include a detail for that concrete barrier reinstallation? I assume it needs to be structural in some regard.
And it would be, and that would be based on what the contractor actually took out. Carrie, do we have a detail for?
No, there's not a detail for the seawall in this.
Mm-hmm.
It's shown in the section views, I believe, but not a detail for the removal.
It's more of the replacement to make sure that it has, the same or better strength than the wall that was removed, right? Or the components that were removed.
Sure, yeah, and typically we handle that with, when we put it out to bid, when we have a better idea of those are like finer details that we do during the final design for the bid documents, which is why we haven't included it in here. I mean, it's typically like an 18-inch dowel with, epoxy coated rebar. But yeah, we do not have that detail shown right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Those are all my questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Penny?
Nope, I'm all set.
Brendan?
It needs to get done.
I'm all
I
set as
have
well. Thank
faith.
you.
Okay. Do we have anybody in the audience for this one?
I do have a hand raised. I'm going to unmute Mary O'Meara.
Good evening. Thank you very much. I too am very much in favor of this project.
Can you just give us your name and address, please?
I'm sorry, I thought I did. Mary O'Meara, 143 Glades Road.
Thank you.
Scituate, Mass. I too am very much in favor of this project. My one question is when you mentioned that stairwell, it's been inaccessible for years. I think it was back when the Army Corps of Engineers tried to reinforce the lower seawall down by us, and after a couple storms, big boulders were moved, barricading that stairwell, so it's been inaccessible. Will that be rectified during this project, or will that stairwell be reinforced and cleared?
Maybe
I think that's something, I would ask the contractor to do while he was there. I know just the stones you're talking about. Yep.
Yeah. I need to do that, or you need to do that?
No, I would
Okay.
direct the contractor to do it while he was there.
That would be great. Thank
Yep.
you very much.
Sure, you're welcome.
Anybody else?
Yes, iPhone. I'm going to unmute iPhone. They need to unmute on their end, though.
Hello.
All right, I'm gonna switch and move on to iPad. Okay.
So this is, I think, iPad. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Hi, this is Peter McCarron, 135 Glades Road.
Good evening.
Just on that small staircase, we're going to have to remove a portion of the wall there and then reinstall it. When you reinstall it, would it be possible to have a winter? You know how when you have the seawalls down in Minot Beach, they put in a barrier so the waves can't make their way through the opening. The way it's currently constructed, the water just comes gushing right through there whenever there's a storm and can undermine, the pavement, public utilities, and ultimately flood my yard. So wondering if when they reinstall that wall, they can make it so in the winter for the nor'easters and whatnot, they could have it so it could be blocked off in the winter, but accessible obviously in the nice weather in the summer and the spring.
Top log system, I think Sean is.
Yeah, if that's the portion that gets removed, I don't see why we couldn't incorporate some type of gate stop log system when they put it back.
Yeah, that'd be great. I fully support the project. I think it's excellent.
Thank you. Okay. Do we have anybody else in the audience?
No other hands are raised.
Oh.
Oh, well, I mean, I'll try iPhone one more time. But okay. They're not unmuting on their end.
We're on the iPhone. If you can unmute. If not, we need to keep moving.
Yeah. Okay.
We have them or they're gone?
No, they're gone.
Okay.
They ran away.
All right. Did I get everybody?
Yep.
All
Are
right.
you all set, Frank?
I am. I think everybody's asked enough questions. I'm good with the answers.
I do too. Okay, I make a motion to close.
That's from Penny.
I'll second that.
That's from Brendan. All in favor. Eric?
Yes.
Roger?
Yes.
Robbie?
Yes.
And Frank, yes. Okay.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time
Thank you
tonight.
very much. Yep.
Thank you for putting them all
forward to
on
seeing
tonight.
Couple
Thank
of
you.
weeks.
Tie you up for so long.
Well, it's all important. Thank you.
Thank you.
21 Central Ave. This is a continuation from 922, and we have somebody from Merrill.
I'm trying.
Ms. Smith, let me help you here. We have Adam Brodsky. Is that correct? Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Brodsky, you should be able to
and
unmute.
Thomas.
And if you have Mr. Pozerski with you as well. Yep, there we go. Excellent.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Snow. This is Adam Brodsky. Can you hear me?
We got you.
Thank you. Would you also promote Stan Humphreys? I'm not certain he's on the call yet.
It's feasible
All right.
he is dialing by phone. Should we check that?
Well,
You have a-
let-
have a
If you
let-
just
phone.
dialed in by phone, your last number ends in 654. Can you identify yourself, please?
This is Stan Humphreys
There you go.
from
Great.
Environmental Consulting and Restoration.
We got you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Chair Snow. So my name is Adam Brodsky. I'm a local land use and environmental lawyer, and I represent the applicant South River Marina Realty LLC. Ken Duvall and Scott Herzog are the managers. of the LLC, and South River owns the property at 21 Central Avenue. And I also represent Union Street Realty Trust LLC. Union Street owns 7 Marshfield Avenue, and Ken and Scott are managers of that LLC. Also joining me this evening are Tom Brzezinski, our registered professional engineer with Merrill, as well as Stan Humphreys, a coastal geologist with ECR. And the commission may remember that we were last before you in February of this year, and the various town boards reviewing this project requested that we complete the MEPA process before we return to the town for our local permitting. That was a lengthy process. Ultimately, the Secretary of Energy and Environmental Affairs issued a MEPA certificate on September 8th, indicated that no environmental impact report was required for this project. As a result of going through the MEPA process, there were some project changes. The core elements of the project remain the same. We're proposing to improve the failing bulkhead. We're proposing a soft solution to stabilize the eroding parking lot slope to the south of the site near the bridge. We're proposing rehabilitating the existing boat ramp at the end of Webster Street. We're proposing raising the existing boat repair building. That's the large metal building that you're familiar with in the center of 21 Central, and replacing that with a smaller modern marine service building, which will serve the existing 90-slip recreational marina. And we're also proposed raising the Lobster Pound building, the large middle building on 7 Marshfield, and constructing across the site 10 townhouse units, very similar to the townhouse development to the north of Webster Avenue that was permitted back in 2008, 2009. As a result of the MEPA process, we made some changes to the bulkhead, changes to the slope stabilization. We reduced impervious. We revised the stormwater best management practices, which actually allowed us to eliminate the existing outfall that presently serves the site into the river. And we made minor modifications to the residential units. And Tom will take you through all of those changes. There are a couple of related issues that came out of MEPA. I just want to touch on those quickly. First, Mass DEP has requested that we submit a jurisdictional determination to determine, or rather to confirm, the location of the historic high watermark, which is the limit of Mass DEP's waterways jurisdiction. We relied upon the presumptive line that's available from Mass DEP under its existing data layers. Second, at some point during the design of the project, the bedroom count changed for the residential units, which changed the parking. And so we revised the parking plan and submitted a parking waiver to minimize parking to the planning board. The planning board is reviewing this project under the Hummerock Village Residential Overlay District. It's a special permit use as well as site plan review. That was presented to the planning board. We were in front of them a few weeks ago, and we'll be returning to the planning board on November 20th. And lastly, there was a concern regarding the location of the town floodplain, not to be confused with the FEMA floodplain. But there was a question regarding the location of the town floodplain and watershed protection district, which is a zoning district. Prior to filing our applications, we consulted with the building department to confirm that line and relied upon that line in order to design the project. The line was consistent, which was again used to the project to the north on the other side of Webster Street. Regardless, as a result of the review process, the building department changed its position as to how you map that line. And rather than fight about that issue, we submitted an application to the Zoning Board of Appeals requesting a special permit or Section 6 finding because this property was filled and developed long prior to the adoption of the floodplain zoning bylaw and constitutes a pre-existing non-conforming use. We've appeared before the ZBA, and we're next appearing before the ZBA on December 18th. As Tom will go through and explain, the project is designed to meet the wetland performance standards. And there's one, I'm going to use the word unusual, it's not necessarily unusual, an atypical issue, at least one that's not regularly seen in Scituate. As you know, we need to comply with the flood-resistant construction requirements in the Massachusetts Building Code. None of the existing structures comply, and this is relevant because it relates to land subject to coastal storm flowage. As you know, there are no wetland performance standards on the state act for land subject to coastal storm flowage, but DEP typically requires an applicant demonstrate that buildings comply with the Massachusetts Building Code. You have your local bylaw, and again, that's why this issue is relevant. The new residential units are designed to comply in all respects with the Massachusetts Building Code. They're proposed to be constructed on pilings with all habitable space well above the base flood elevation. The issue concerns the proposed marine service building, which needs to be constructed essentially at grade because we need to be able to get boats in and out of the marine service building in order to service them and can't be elevated. Under the Massachusetts Building Code, because this portion of Humrock is also mapped as barrier beach, we have an issue. Because it's mapped as barrier beach, it's defined under the wetland regulations as to include either coastal dune or coastal beach. And if it's mapped that way, we must comply with Appendix G in the Massachusetts Building Code, which essentially requires a V-zone compliant foundation. It's got to be on pilings, and the lowest structural member has got to be 2 feet above the base flood elevation. As you can appreciate, if, for example, our base flood elevation is 13 and we need 2 feet of additional freeboard, the lowest structural member needs to be at 15 feet. That's the designed flood elevation. And we can't put the new boat repair building on elevated on open pilings to meet that requirement. Again, it's simply too dangerous to use a hydraulic trailer and trying to tow boats up a ramp into a marine service building. So fortunately, that was anticipated in the Massachusetts Building Code. And so under the Building Code, if the Conservation Commission finds that a coastal dune on a property is not significant to the interest of the act, then the building commissioner can issue a building permit for that structure. In this case, we're proposing this for the marine service building. Just so you know, that building will be flood-proofed, but will not be elevated on pilings. As a practical matter, you're familiar with this property, and Stan can address this in more detail. There is no coastal dune on the property. The site is almost entirely paved or covered with buildings. There's no elevated, naturally occurring mounding of sediment that migrates across the site. However, we don't want to argue about that point either. We're assuming coastal dune simply because it's mapped as barrier beach, and we're asking the Conservation Commission to issue a finding of non-significance so we can maintain that water-dependent marine use on that property and continue to service boats at this facility. With that longer than expected introduction, let me turn it over to Tom, and then Stan is also available to talk briefly about the request for a determination of non-significance. Tom?
Yep. Hello, Mr. Chairman, fellow commissioners. I'm Tom Pazerski, Marine Services Director at Merrill Engineers. Just a brief overview. The resource areas, as you know, we have present there are Barrier Beach, we have the riverfront area, outstanding resource water, shellfish suitability area. We did complete a detailed shellfish study, which is submitted, land subject to coastal storm flowage over the entire area, and AE10 next to the South River, and an A13 at the rest of the site. This is not in an NHESP mapped area. Under existing conditions, as you are aware, we have about 90% impervious area. We've got about 15,715 square feet of non-compliant flood structures. There is very limited stormwater treatment on site, catch basins, and a broken outfall. We have an old cesspool and an aging septic system that does not provide any type of treatment capabilities. The bulkhead, the travel pit are all in dire need of repair, as is the boat ramp. We've made a lot of significant changes since we came before the commission previously as a result of the MEPA process and collaborating with the representative agencies. These changes along the shoreline have resulted in a more less steep slope for the natural bank, which is a mixed cobble berm that also has plantings on top of it. We have taken, we're going to take all the blocks out that are in that particular area. We were also asked to place angles in the bulkhead to allow for more natural flow of waters along the South River. So you can see on this plan here, the blue line shows the bulkhead area. You can see how we pulled that back, angled it around the travel pit. On the north side of the travel pit, we're going to angle down the sheeting at that area. And you can see we have the boat ramp there. The boat ramp will consist of an anchor pad, articulating concrete pads with stainless steel connectors, and a landing ramp at the bottom. It's a much more flexible design. It's allowed to move back and forth if there's issues down there. We have changed the ground coverages significantly on site, and as you can see on this plan, we've also seeking a substantial parking lot reduction. The results of these changes have resulted in a 50% reduction in impervious area. And that's not even counting the areas underneath the condominiums, because that's going to be gravel impervious pavers. We're proposing a main paved drive and a paved drive around the handicap accessible areas in the marine industrial area. We have a 10-foot wide gravel public access walkway that'll be ADA compliant along from the Marshfield Ave entrance, following South River to Webster Street. We get to Webster Street, it'll be in the paved area and marked. We've made a lot of stormwater changes, and most of these are good coastal non-structural BMP improvements. They consist of, we do have a couple of hydrodynamic separators, but we've gotten rid of a lot of the other structural stuff. We have sediment traps, rain garden, infiltration trenches. We're segregating clean roof runoff to infiltration structures that'll have watertight covers. And then we've gotten rid of all the point source discharges. There's one presently there. That's an important point because point source discharges provide concentrated flows from a land use of higher pollutant load. And this will help spread it out with the two level spreaders to the south and the north of the site. As far as water quality volume and water recharge volume, we're essentially providing well over double and triple of both with this proposal. We have an extensive treatment train with this that not only will provide 90% TSS removal, but the infiltration structures and the rain gardens provide great treatment for nitrogen and phosphorus removal. A lot of these areas will be easy to clean out because you'll see when they're sedimented. We are proposing a lot of changes too as far as how the water flows off the site, how flood waters will recede. We are cutting down substantially on the watershed that goes to the neighbors along Central Ave and Webster Street on the corners. We're proposing swales along those properties, so as flood waters recede, they come into the treatment system, and then they're discharged through the level spreaders and the ultimate treatment. So I think that's going to be a great benefit. The two septic systems are fully compliant septic systems with nitrogen treatment devices in it. And, you know, we've done a lot of work to try to work with MEPR and satisfy their concerns. We were asked to consider alternatives here. One of the alternatives was a no-build alternative, which would leave the site as is. The second alternative that we considered was perhaps reconstructing the existing facilities. The problem with that lies is to rebuild those facilities is more than 50% the value of the structure, which means we have to construct completely new flood compliant facilities. And our preferred option is the one that you have in front of us. This site has been used as a marine industrial use since the late 1940s. We are continuing to want to use it as such. As Adam described, the Marine Services Building is a functionally dependent use, which means we need to be able to use the water. It's a water dependent use that requires maintenance of vehicles. And one of the things that we've done is we will make sure that we have more than ample smart vents on this building. It'll be wet flood proofed and it will allow water to flow in and out. I also would like to talk a little bit about the floodplain issue out here. We went to substantial efforts to study what's going on with flooding conditions out here. And the results of our study concurred with the agency that regulates flooding, which is FEMA, and they do the mapping. As you're probably aware, there's a detailed flood insurance study that was comprehensively done for this entire area. There were 4 or 5 different methodologies we used to study it. We also completed a 145.5-acre survey of this entire area to study how the flooding characteristics transpire here. The VE is at the barrier wall. It's VE 16. The top of the barrier wall is 15.5 to 17. We surveyed the entire wall to the north. The VE line is the limit of where 3-foot wave actions occur. The limited wave action line, which we weren't sure when you look at the FEMA maps exactly where that lies, and the state floodplain coordinator indicated that LIMWA is 30 feet behind the wall. The limited wave action line is where there's a the end of the 1.5-foot wave height occurs. At that point, things transition to an AE zone. Now we have an AE 13 over there. The cobbled berm at the end of Marshfield Ave is elevation 14.6 to 14.9. If you add that 1.5-foot wave action to the 13, that's 14.5. So the most vulnerable area at that point is right at that particular point. What we found is what happens out there is the flooding actually starts about 6,500 feet north, and then it inundates in a southerly direction. And it starts coming up from the South River on our site. It's a lot lower on our site with the ramp at elevation 1 or 2 or 4, and a lot of site elevations are 8 or 10. When it hits that magic elevation of 10, then you start seeing AE floodwaters merge around all sides of the site, which brings us back to why we are going to have flood vents that oppose both ways. I think I'll probably stop there and let Stan talk about the coastal dune issues unless anybody has any questions at this point.
Tom, it's Adam Browski. I just want to make clear that your discussion of the velocity zone and the LIMWA and the seawall, that's more than 400 feet to the west of the site, correct?
That is absolutely correct.
Excuse me, the east of the site.
The closest point to our property line to the LIMWA limit is 405 feet west of our site. And as you know, there's 3 layers of properties there and roadways in between us. And by the way, when the water hits Central Ave, it has to get channeled down towards the intersection area, and which is pretty historic for those areas there.
Yeah, and Tom, just to be clear, I meant to say east of our site. So the ocean is to the east. Our site is
Yes,
to
it's
the west.
405 feet to the east of us.
Thank you. That's my fault.
Yeah.
So Stan, do you want to talk a little bit about the request for determination of non-significance?
Sure. My name is Stan Humphreys, coastal geologist with ECR. Similar to arguments that I've made on developing or redeveloping developed properties up in Hull, this similar circumstance has occurred here at this site in that the entire site's been developed. It has an impervious area that's basically flat on the site. And I went into the characteristics of a dune in two letters. One that was provided to you on June 24th, 2024, and then one with minor revisions was sent to MIPA on August 26th, 25. In that letter, I was more specific about the specific citations within the building code. The ability for this dune to erode in response to coastal beach conditions is fairly negligible. As just pointed out, the ocean is 500 feet away. The erosion rate on the river shoreline beach is about 1/10 of a foot per year. And as Tom pointed out, there's going to be mitigation through cobbling nourishment. The existing topography will be maintained basically flat, no artificial removal of materials. The dune form has to be allowed to be changed with wind and natural water flow. Well, it's entirely paved. There are no hills, mounds, or ridges. It simply doesn't even look like a dune. There's no vegetation cover within this property boundaries to protect. And again, because these dune sediments are beneath the site, they're isolated by the pavement. They don't have the ability to move laterally or landward. And finally, the site's not mapped as a rare endangered habitat for shorebirds, so that it does not provide a habitat for common shorebirds. I think it's fairly critical to recognize that the site in itself, although located on a barrier beach, and there are numerous properties on Hummerock that have the characteristics of dunes to be protected, this does not. Now, the jurisdiction, in my mind, goes to protecting land subject to coastal storm flowage. And as Tom's gone through an explanation of the foundations are in compliance with FEMA during the MIPA process. There's essentially a positive review from the state plane coordinator's office. And I think that is about it. I'm available for questions.
Thanks, Dan. And Chair Snow, I believe that the Concom did receive a copy of our MIPA submittal, which contains Stan's updated letter. But I've just made a note. I'm going to make sure that I send another copy of that separately to Ms. Smith so that you have that standalone document.
Thank you. Okay, a lot of information here. Jen, do you want to start?
Sure. Certainly an interesting project and certainly an opportunity to improve the site. As far as the dune part, that probably being the biggest piece to discuss. I think the argument that I read in these comments from other agencies is that the site provides an area for storm damage protection and flood control. And so in that regard, functions as a dune. I do want to also add, I think the VE line and the Limois are closer. I don't know that the VE line is the seawall. I think the VE line is more west of the seawall, but maybe similar to the Limwa. For the water dependent use of the boat building, is that covered in the building code? If something is water dependent, you can go with some different rules for building.
So, and Chair Snow, do you want us to answer
Sure.
questions? Sure. So the concept of water dependency is a Chapter 91 concept, and is intended to preserve, as it sounds, water dependent uses such as marinas and boatyards. And the town has always expressed an interest to us in maintaining that use to make an active use of the waterfront. It's not necessarily reflected in the building code. The problem being is that because, again, this is simply mapped as Barrier Beach, it's assumed to be coastal dune. In the building code under Appendix G, there are separate standards for construction on a coastal dune, as I mentioned, the use of pilings, as well as the need to essentially elevate it as if it's in a velocity zone. That's what we agreed to do that with the residential. That's why we agreed to put this on pilings early on. And so, but the building code also allows a determination of non-significance. And I just want to make a point that when we talk about dune sediments, the commission should understand that those are buried under 3 or 4 feet of fill. Prior to this site being developed and filled in approximately the 1940s, obviously the natural shoreline there, likely contained dune or at least dune sediments. And that site's been altered for more than 50 years. So those dune sediments are literally under several feet of fill as well as asphalt. That's why they don't function. Having said that, because we're also located within the federal floodplain, we're required to protect the interest of storm damage prevention and flood control, which is why we are using FEMA approved foundation types. So we are protecting the wetland interest of storm damage prevention and flood control on this site. It's simply we're not protecting those interests with respect to a dune which is buried under 4 feet of fill and asphalt. I candidly never understood that argument from the state. I thought it was an overreach. We simply don't have dune, but we're assuming we have dune. We're essentially, assuming it has dune. We're just asking for a determination of non-significance because we're protecting those other interests by doing all this additional work to make this site flood compliant. And as Tom said, the alternative is to do nothing here, in which case you'll have existing non-conforming structures, which are lawfully allowed to be maintained there. None of these environmental benefits, none of the modern stormwater benefits. And we have an existing outfall into the river, which is entirely legal, and we can maintain that. But this project is designed to substantially enhance storm damage prevention and provide flood control and improve generally water quality associated with the river. So I'm sorry for the long-winded answer. Hopefully I answered your question.
Well, I guess it was about the water dependency. I thought there was an exclusion with that in building code.
The exclusion relates to Appendix G, which has to do with the coastal dune issue. The desire to have water dependent uses is a state and local policy. And so that's why we're trying to maintain that water dependent use. We still want to have that boatyard use because it provides a working waterfront and a service to the community and the Commonwealth.
Okay, thank you. Frank, my comments are that if the area does provide those functions, then there's an argument that it is dune when it's part of a larger system of a barrier beach.
Okay. So we're going to move through commission members. Obviously, there's a lot of information here. at some point it might even warrant some sort of visit. And I also wondered, Jen, we've heard from the engineer, the attorney, and from Mr. Humphreys, and I'm just wondering, have we got anybody looking at just these resource areas and whatnot?
The coastal specialist I've reached out to, I have not had anyone provide a proposal. We could look at maybe someone with a wetland background, but I haven't, as far as a coastal geologist, I've not found anyone to be available to comment.
Okay. All
So,
right.
no, I was unaware that the Conservation Commission wanted to hire its own peer review consultant. You're likely aware that the planning board retained John Chesia Consulting in order to review the zoning aspects as well as stormwater. And Mr. Chesia and the planning board have recommended also a traffic consultant. So we just like if the commission is considering its own peer review consultant, we'd just like to be plugged into that conversation, please.
We will. And, they have a number of things that are their purview. Obviously, ours are a little bit different. And
yes, sir. We haven't said no. We just want to know what the scope is and who you're contacting and make sure we're in agreement regarding qualifications and things of that sort.
I understand. Okay. And I'm hoping we can move this along a little bit. I know that this is a big project and it's going to go on for a little bit. We have 5 other hearings after this, so be cognizant of that. Let's see. I'm going to start with Penny again. She's a senior member here.
Oh, yeah, I'm senior, all right. Okay, my first comment is, Adam, you said less parking. I'm counting 35 spaces alone. That not counting the condos. That's a lot of parking for the boat house.
So, Chair Snow, we're happy to discuss parking. I think perhaps the more relevant question is impervious for the Conservation Commission.
Right.
So we need to provide parking for both the marina, and that's where we're asking for a reduction. There's actually a detailed parking study that the planning board has in front of it. And then we need to have compliant parking for both the residential units as well as the building. So the reduction in parking had to do with the marina parking, which is already non-conforming. We have a 90 slip marina. Theoretically, we're supposed to have 90 parking spaces to comply with current zoning. Scituate has an outdated parking requirement for boat slips. Most towns, it's a half a parking space per slip, and Scituate is double that. Currently, we have less than the 90 slips. So in any event, the point of the parking waiver was just to confirm that existing non-conforming structures so that we're minimizing parking. And that was the purpose of changing the parking plan as well as requesting the parking waiver. So to Ms. Scott Pipe's point, we are trying to minimize the parking under zoning in order to minimize impervious. And I think we've done a pretty good job of doing that.
Okay, to me, there wasn't that much parking down there before. But, all right, here's.
So there was off the top of my head.
Wait. We can't have 2 people talk. Penny, why don't you finish your question? Go ahead.
I am having trouble reading the plan. Which building is the boathouse? Is it the green one or the brown down below? I can't read this.
It's the green one.
One person.
This is Tom Pazerski. It's the green building. The treatments that you see,
okay,
dark gray stuff is pavement. You have red is pervious pavers, brown is seashell, and the other stuff to the right near Central Ave is gravel.
Okay. Why can't you have the boathouse up on pilings just like the rest of the building and have a ramp? We have lots of places down there where the garages are on pilings so the water can freely flow if it comes in a storm and you have a ramp. I don't understand why this has to be on the ground.
Because the travel lifts and forklifts that typically move these boats, they don't have a lot of clearance. On average, they're probably 4.5 inches. It's definitely less than 6 inches. So you can't have a change of grade that's too abrupt in order to safely put the boat inside the Marine Services building. The existing grade out in that area is around elevation 9. So we're talking about elevating the finished floor on a marine industrial building to elevation 16. That you can't service boats that way. You can't do it safely either.
If you say so, okay. And I still have
Boat
a
ramps are a
question.
different thing, but this is a Marine Services building.
But I still have a question with
Go ahead,
the
Penny.
dune. But
Yep.
that
Go
will
ahead.
eventually be answered, I hope. Thank you, Frank.
All right. Brendan?
Yes, thank you, Frank. So I have a couple of questions, I guess, or at least I I got distracted. What was the brown part?
Seashells.
Okay, so that's seashells, and then under the breast is what, gravel?
Uh,
You got
next,
asphalt in here, yeah.
you got asphalt, you got pervious pavers for the driveways for the condos and underneath the condos. Underneath the rest of the units is gravel. Public walkway is gravel. The
Uh-huh.
central lab parking lot is gravel.
I see. Okay, so pervious pavers, are these the actual pavers themselves uh pervious, or are we just talking about the space in between?
Space in between.
The spaces, so the pavers themselves are not pervious.
Correct.
Okay. And why do they have to extend underneath the condo?
It gives a nice clean area for people to be able to get out of their car and go up into the unit.
Okay.
Instead
But
of
for
having sand and gravel getting fracked up to a brand new unit.
so they're parking underneath.
Correct.
Okay. Um, and that area, which seems okay, I think I'm getting that. Um, seashells, asphalt, you have the main drive there is asphalt. Uh, and how many parking spaces are there here?
I think there's a total of 81.
81 parking spaces.
And you need 30 for the condos alone.
I didn't find 81. Um, my bad. So the marine use of that building, you're not putting it on piles because it's a marine use. Yet it looks as though 75% of this is for parking. So that's parking, not marine use. And if it's a parking garage, that's should be up on piles. I
So
think you could drive a car up there. You're
no,
leaving a little spot. We're talking about inches that you can get a boat in there. We've got a quarter of this spot that doesn't have it. I presume that's where you're going to work on a boat, and you have to get past all the cars.
So, Mr. Collins, I think you may be mistaken. I do see some red lines that suggest that there's parking in the building. That's an indoor work area for the storage of boats. So the parking places to the parking spaces to the south will be used for parking during the 3 seasons when there are boats in the water. That's also a lay-down area for winter storage of boats, which is what has traditionally occurred there. So again, the parking that we need to provide for the marina use is seasonal. In the off-season, those vessels are then stored in the lay-down area. And so that is also a water-dependent use. So
Okay.
we're not using the marine building for the parking of cars. That's an indoor conditioned space for boat repair.
Okay. It's unlabeled and it's identical in, excuse me, and it's identical in color and shape to be parking spaces as what you have here as parking spaces.
There
So,
are other plans in the plan set. I think this is simply one of the plans that Ms. Smith pulled up, and it was shaded to assist with understanding the parking surfaces. If you review all of the detailed plans, you'll see the actual plans for the marine service building and all of the features of the marine service building, including the architectural plans.
can you direct me to the plans that have that?
Tom,
Because
I'll refer to
I have a
you.
lot of different stuff here in
Yes.
my email. So
So
here we have no parking spaces.
This is construction
Well,
one.
there's a whole series of different plans. So we have to find
Sure.
the correct plan.
That's septic.
And some of them overlay, which makes
Yeah.
them okay.
That one seemed to have the same
This is current
details.
or existing.
So if I can clarify how marinas operate, that building is dedicated to marine services. All right. Now, most marinas do afford the ability to have controlled parking inside the buildings. But if marine services are needed, the marine services are conducted inside that building, all of that building except the members area. And in that building, you'll have the elevated hazardous waste, hazard material, operations, the floor drains, etc. So that's basically the short of it all. And that's why it is required for us to have that as a functionally dependent use that doesn't elevate too much. You can't get the boats in and out of there to maintain it.
I understand, but based on what I'm getting from you is that it's up to the marina what the use is going to be, and if they're not servicing any boats, then it's a parking garage.
No, they will be servicing boats. Absolutely. They always have and they will continue to do so.
Well, it certainly looks like a parking garage. So
Can we
imagine my concern that you're trying not to level something like, put it up because and I could understand that. I wouldn't want to roll a boat up a ramp, honestly. If I was responsible for it, I'd rather just pull it into into a garage here and work on it. But when 3/4 of the on your plans it look exactly like parking spaces and are unlabeled, then that to me is 3/4 of the uses as a parking garage.
Can we maybe we can clear this one up a little bit, Tom or Adam. Are the spaces inside that building being counted for parking for this project?
Cheers. No, I do not believe so. And again, just to be clear, we're asking the planning board for a special permit and site plan approval for a marine services building.
I understand what you're saying. The concern for this commission is whether this building should be elevated, and you're making a case that the building can't be elevated because you need to pull in a travel lift and boats, which I think is pretty understandable. But when you look at the plan and we see what seems to be denoted as parking spaces, that would lead to the question of, is this truly being used as a service building or is it being used for parking? And my question was pretty simple. Is the parking spaces shown in that plan being used in the calculation for parking for this project?
I believe the answer is no. I'll ask Tom. I think you had some data layer that must have remained on the plan set when that was generated.
Okay. All right.
That's why you
Well,
see
there's something we can figure out. Brendan, do you have another thought or question?
I want to see the parking spaces. Also, I understand that, at this moment, the expectation is that this is going to be, marine services, but we're taking a lot which is dedicated to marine services and we're making it primarily residential. The marine services, excuse me, has been shrunk down to a small portion of this lot. And the fact that it could just go away once this is all done, in a year or two and just become a parking garage is, I feel, a valid concern.
Got it. Okay.
The last thing is on the coastal dune. I think the entirety of, I don't see how anything is insignificant. Things are not moving because they covered it over with asphalt, and things are moving anyway, I'm sure. And that's my 2 cents on that. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Eric?
Thanks, Frank. I just want to say before I start that I don't really have many questions, but it did take me, some time to go through all of the state issued documentation. It was like 40 something documents here, and I do have some notes, and I would like to just daylight some of the things that I noted from these documents. I am in full support of the potential site improvements being proposed and the reduction of potential environmentally detrimental structures and features, such as the existing septic. However, it is the responsibility of this commission to ensure that the work being proposed is done safely for both the environment as well as the human inhabitants of this site now and into the future with projected sea level rise. Now, we all know that this project triggers almost every sensitive wetland resource area, barrier beach, coastal dune, land subject coastal storm flowage, land containing shellfish, tidelands, riverfront area, and floodplain high groundwater areas. That's a very high bar for the applicant to be able to navigate here, and it's clear that they've done a lot of work. However, there are concerns that I do have relative to what is being proposed, and I'm going to start with the coastal dune significance. It is the Commission's legal obligation to presume significance unless overwhelming evidence proves otherwise, and I don't know as if any has been presented thus far. There are some things that we can use to test the criteria of whether the dune is significant or not. And Mr. Stan had already identified some of these. However, what was failed to be mentioned, if any one of these functions remains or could be reestablished, the area is presumed significant and a finding of insignificance cannot be made. So being that it provides a buffer to inland areas by absorbing wave energy or slowing floodwater could be argued. And the fifth point within the five that I'm looking at for potential test questions to test whether or not there's significance is that could it still perform the function if restored? And the answer definitely is yes. And the presumption of significance in CMR 10.283, where coastal dunes are presumed significant to storm damage prevention and flood control, again, the burden of proof is on the applicant. And this presumption is very hard to overcome, especially when coastal dune sediment has been found below the fill of the and pavement of the existing site and structures. The area connects to larger dune features on adjacent parcels, and the area floods and erodes during storm events, as was mentioned earlier in the preamble by, I believe, Mr. Brodsky, when he was saying the eroding slope is going to be repaired using soft engineered solutions. So on coastal dune and floodplain function, the dune beneath this site continues to perform the functions of storm damage prevention and flood control as confirmed by CVM, Mass DEP, and the Secretary of Energy and Environmental Affairs. The Commission, I think, must therefore uphold the presumption of significance under 310 CMR 10.28. So with all of that, and assuming that there is significant dune here, I believe also when the original flow path analysis was conducted, it was based under the misplaced velocity and Lenoir boundary. So I think that geomorphic site-specific flood analysis for river and ocean overtopping scenarios now and with sea level rise is something that we should consider. Furthermore, I think looking at wastewater, meaning the Title V septic as it's being proposed, my one and only question, and I would like to revisit this at the end to be answered, is the system being proposed able to function with high water? And with stormwater, the marine use is land use with higher potential pollutant loads. And I know that the applicant has done some work to try and mitigate this, but there is concern because this potential pollutant load would be discharging near outstanding resource water and shellfish sites. That is obviously a great concern for the marine and fisheries identification of areas mapped for blue mussel, razor clam, soft shell clam, which I think should definitely weigh into considerations for time of year restrictions for work that may or may not be proposed. And especially if there's any seaward encroachment, we would definitely want mitigation for that. Continuing with shellfish and marine habitat impacts, because the entire, seaward edge, meaning the riverfront area, has been mapped as that habitat, I do think that needs to also meet certain classifications for outstanding resource water and class SA water quality category. And that's being reserved for shellfish and habitat protection. I think that with the additional groundwater monitoring during spring tides, because that is a very important thing to consider for both time of year work restrictions and habitat mitigation if necessary. The site lies immediately adjacent to these habitat areas and outstanding resource waters. So any alteration below mean high water and discharge of runoff or leaching from the septic system that may or may not be able to function as appropriately with reevaluation of what those high water marks are is definitely important, especially given the permeability of coastal soils and potential high groundwater. It just makes me question whether or not the Title V system as designed can assure separation from the water table under tidal fluctuation and sea level rise. And that brings me to my next point on flooding and climate change vulnerability. The site does lie within the 100-year floodplain, and that's no small consideration, considering that the proposed marina services building remains at grade, which will continue to obstruct floodwater on the site. The residential buildings, I believe, include ground level enclosures, which could also reflect and redirect floodwaters rather than letting them pass through. So I think that we must ensure that development does not increase any offsite flooding or undermine the dune or floodplain function, which could be a potential risk under the current design. And with those high water concerns, the proposed stormwater infiltration resolutions could fail during high tides, which would reduce treatment and increase flooding. I think that looking at long-term resilience of the site as it relates to sea level rise and storm surge, designing to the 100-year flood elevation is probably insufficient because by 2070, this will be a 10-year storm event area rather than a 100-year flood. So as it's designed, it seems like it could potentially increase offsite flooding risk along Webster Street and some of the neighboring parcels, which is contrary to the wetlands flood control interest. And I don't recall if there was a thing mentioned on increasing site fill, but reducing fill is also something that would be important to preserving, the flood interests of adjacent properties. That's all I have for now.
Thank you, Eric. Adam, do you want to address some of that first, or do we want to keep going with members?
Well, I'm going to defer to my technical team. I think Mr. D. Tomaso was mistaken. There is no coastal dune associated with the eroding slope. That's not coastal dune. There is no evidence of coastal dune nearby this site. I think that the concept that if the site could be restored as coastal dune is just impractical, because if this project is not approved, it's going to remain a filled lay down area for boat yards, and we're going to have two large non-conforming metal buildings. So again, that's a commentary, not a technical issue. I believe we've addressed most of the technical issues raised by Mr. D. Tomaso. We've studied extensively historic groundwater and then taken into consideration tidal fluctuations. There's no need in order to monitor that using the methodologies used by or recommended by CZM, which I'm familiar with because CZM recommended that for a very large project in Hull. It cost tens of thousands of dollars, but that was a 132 unit project with 10,000 square feet of commercial. It resulted in, I believe, a net difference of approximately 2 inches. We have more than sufficient data to identify high groundwater here, taking into consideration tidal fluctuations. Again, if this project is not approved, and again, I'm not suggesting approve this or nothing, but there is presently an existing legal outfall that we're trying to eliminate by improving the stormwater best management practices, which can only result in improvements to the South River, which we agree is an ORW. I'll leave it to Tom to talk about the Title V system. We have considered flooding, and there are no enclosures below the base flood elevation associated with the residential units, and we've had extensive conversations with the planning board regarding that. Agreed, the Marine Service building is not going to be elevated or proposed to be elevated in accordance with Appendix G, which would require pilings, and again, the lowest structural member several feet above that base flood elevation, but it is provided with flood vents and is flood resistant. Again, that is a commercial building, different than a residential building, with different standards under the building code for flood resiliency. You can have commercial space below the base flood elevation, even under the 10th edition building code. It just needs to be wet and dry flood proofed, and we are flood proofing that. I do believe that Tom has addressed long-term resiliency. I'll defer to that. And so our hunt here is to demonstrate to the commission that indeed there again, we don't wish to argue about whether there's coastal dune there, but I've been to the site. I have never seen a naturally occurring elevated landform of sediment that migrates across the site or any of the sites in the immediate vicinity. Historically, there was coastal dune. It was buried in the 40s under fill and asphalt. It's not going to be turned back into coastal dune. It's fortunately or unfortunately. And so I think we have made a compelling case of non-significance. And importantly, and I think it was Ms. Smith who said that you've got to protect the interest of storm damage prevention and flood control, which we've endeavored to do by taking these non-conforming structures, proposing new structures, and ensuring to the maximum extent we can that those are resilient. So, Tom,
I just want to clarify one thing. I am in full support of the potential site improvements being proposed. I just think that it's important, as I stated at the beginning, to make sure that everything is done safely for both the environment as well as human inhabitants of this site for now and the future, and to remind you that we are legally obligated to presume significance unless overwhelming evidence proves otherwise. That's my position on. That's all I have for now. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to keep this moving because we still have quite a ways to go this evening. Roger?
Yeah, I've got two quick questions here. The first one is with regards to the, I guess where the travel pit is, as well as the reconstructed boat ramp. Is there expected to be doing any dredging in that area? Is that needed in order to put down those areas to make them usable again?
Mr. Carroll, as part of this project, we're not proposing dredging. The site does need to be dredged at some point, but that's not part of the notice of intent or the project at the present time.
Will that impact the ability to redo that ramp? I thought I heard that part of it was to rebuild the ramp there. Is that going to, I think it's going to be changing the angle of it. Is that going to impact it in any way?
Is your question whether dredging would impact?
Well, I'm wondering, like, if there's no dredging, is it really going to make it a usable ramp?
I'll defer to Mr. Pazurski, who has designed this. The present boat ramp is in disrepair and needs to be rehabilitated.
So it's just replace what's there, not enhance it.
Correct.
Yes,
Well,
sir.
and the end of that ramp is located right where the existing ramp is now, where boats presently berth.
Okay. Okay. And then this property dates back to the 1940s, when it was used multiple. Has there been any sampling of any contamination underneath it or testing of it? I just think of, property that old that is a commercial use. Has there been any looking into or any studies done to see if there's any contaminants that may need to be addressed when they pull up that asphalt?
So, Mr. Carroll, again, that's not within the Conservation Commission's jurisdiction, but I do recall when the clients purchased the property that there was an environmental site assessment done. So hopefully that answers your question.
So Frank, that is outside of our area of, like, if there was some contamination there, wouldn't we want to be able to kind of make sure that that is either contained or removed as they're doing it?
So Chair Snow, it's Adam Brodsky. The management of oil and hazardous material is governed by Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 21E, which is regulated by the Massachusetts DEP. To the extent that we would have to perform work in order to perform remedial actions out there, that would be within the purview of the Conservation Commission. And in fact, the Wetlands Protection Act regulations have specific exemptions and limited project provisions to actually facilitate hazardous waste cleanup, but that's not anything that's regulated under the State Wetlands Protection Act. And again, there was an environmental site assessment done when this project was purchased. And to the extent that if we ever discovered any oil or hazardous material out there, that would have to be reported to Mass DEP under Chapter 21E in the Massachusetts Contingency Plan. Very stringent regulations requiring reporting, and that's actually one of the more serious violations that Mass DEP deals with, the failure to report oil or hazardous material in a release condition.
Roger, I think maybe to a little bit is that when we evaluate this site, we should be looking at things like erosion control and stockpiles and different methods that they're going to use to construct this to be sure that the sediment or anything doesn't wash in there. I think is a big part of this, and I'm not sure we're even that far this evening, but I think it's a good point. If it's just an old site with issues, I'm assuming that when these folks bought it, they did a 21E so they could get funding. But it's a good question to ask, and I'm sure they could give us that information.
Nope, that's fine. I don't need to. Those are the two. Thank you.
Robbie?
Thanks, Frank. A couple of questions that I had. Looking at the grading plan, it looks like the final condition of the site looks to be about a foot higher than the existing elevation. Is that accurate?
That's correct in some areas, so we can get the stormwater to go in the treatment system and redirect water away from the abutters.
Okay.
On the abutters side, we're cutting swales in.
And then the gravel parking area, as I understand that, that area is during the summer months, it's going to be used for member parking, and then in the winter it would be boat storage.
That's correct.
Accurate? So that wouldn't be parking that's open to the public.
No, sir, this is a private property.
Okay, thank you. And then finally, in looking at the ENF, several of the agencies had comments, and I was curious if those are incorporated into relevant documents like the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan. For example, the Fisheries Department had a comment about restricting time of year activities in regard to fisheries. So I don't know if those types of comments have been incorporated into some of the contract documents, or they will be, to ensure that those agencies' suggestions are heeded by the contractor and the builders.
So, Mr. Burgess, some of the comments have resulted in design changes and, to your point, reflected in the stormwater design, the stormwater report, and the O&M plan associated with stormwater.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to recall the DMF time of year restrictions. I mean, that can be a condition of approval if the Conservation Commission wanted to approve the project. There's so much information here, it's hard for me to recall exactly what those time of year restrictions were.
Perhaps there's a response to comments document or something that can be provided so that commission members can see the comments and see how they were addressed in the plan set and the documents.
So, Mr. Burgess, the planning board asked us to do that, essentially come up with a MEPA response package, and I know Mr. Pazerski is working on that. We can share that with the Conservation Commission also.
It would be extremely helpful.
Great.
Thank you. Have I hit on all our members?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. Do we have anybody in the audience this evening?
At the moment, I don't see any hands raised.
Okay. I think there's a lot of information that's been shared this evening. Obviously, we're going to continue this. I'm wondering if there's information that could be supplied by the applicant or questions from members that might help move this forward.
Chair Snow, I've taken detailed notes, and let me see if I can come up with a way to respond to comments. So, for example, I know that that Mr. Collins is concerned about people parking in the Marine Service Building. Mr. Duval has indicated that all winter the building is full of boats up to 45 feet long. So I think perhaps we can come up with perhaps an additional letter to the Conservation Commission that touches upon some of these questions and provide that information to you that way, if that makes sense.
And that sounds like a good start there, Adam.
And again, we're going to provide you with a copy of the sort of MEPA response that we were asked to do for the planning board. I know that I'm going to provide Ms. Smith with a copy of Mr. Humphrey's updated letter with respect to non-significance.
That would be great. And because I think that's the crux of some of this. We have this site that just was developed over the years, and as you point out, pretty unsightly, and it doesn't function as anything. You're coming forward with a project, and obviously the commission would like to see this developed responsibly, which I'm sure the applicant does as well. And then improvements to the site. The town rezoned this to hopefully have a better mix of use in this space. So as long as we can see a good movement forward and these buildings are at the proper level and all different performance standards are met. One quick one. So there's a lot of green area that's showing, and I'm having a hard time reading this a little bit. I didn't have a full plan set with me. Is that all vegetated, Tom, or someone that like the perimeters, the areas that wrap around these buildings?
All right, so there's stormwater management treatment measures in there. We have Sean Papich is providing a stamped landscape plans with it. You'll see that we're vegetating that area as much as we can. This is the coastal bank mitigation plan. There'll be natural plantings there, but there's more substantial plantings that are not shown on this plan that Sean has provided, and we'll be happy to include that in the set.
I think that would be good for commission members to see also. Can we go back one, Jen, just to that one that, like that overview? Again, just like the areas between, say, the homes and the river, it says open space. So I'm assuming that's going to be some sort of grass, or when it's just called out as open space, what's proposed for that?
Okay, we'll be happy to do that.
Okay. I think it would be good for us to see all those pieces. And if any other commission members kind of mull this over, or anybody watching this, any thoughts or whatever, why don't you funnel it through Jen? We'll make sure it gets to the applicant. We'll look for Adam's notes or responses as well, and keep trying to move forward. What do we have for, like, Adam, in terms of a continuance to? I don't
know. Well, again, we're in front of planning board on November 20, zoning board December 18. We're going to need a couple of weeks to put this additional information together. I'll defer to you, Chair Snow, as to when you next want to see us.
Well, I mean, like I said, there's a series of hearings. So to get all this information together, or Jen, do we want to be out there a month for this, or Brendan's got his hand up. I think either he's muted.
No, I'm not muted. I just had a question.
Sure.
Regarding the information that we're going to get, is that also going to answer whether those spaces are included in the count, or what spaces are?
So, Mr. Collins, we'll provide you with. You should already have the parking plan. We'll provide you with the parking study. We'll provide you with all of that information. Again, I understand your confusion by seeing those red lines in the building. That is being approved as a marine service building and not as a parking garage. So I don't know how to say that more clearly, but we'll provide you with some additional information to clarify that issue.
Okay.
And a month would be great, Chair Snow.
Minimal.
Jen, what do you think?
We do have some threshold issues here. We need to understand where the Conservation Commission is with respect to the determination of non-significance. If that is a non-starter, that changes, obviously, this project.
And I think what I had asked, we're having a hard time getting a coastal geologist to review this. You have Stan doing that, who's a seasoned person, been doing this for a long time. And he has his experience with his opinions on this, and it's typical that the commission would have someone review that aspect. We don't need to turn over everything that the planning board's already doing. You don't need to have additional expense in that regard. I don't believe that they're having anyone review the coastal piece, and we can get information from the planning board if we need some of that as well. But that's to me is the only piece that we're trying to figure out.
And just to be clear, are you looking for a peer review consultant to address the issue of non-significance?
It's a coastal area in general. It is designated as a barrier beach. And I agree with you that it's severely altered, and we just would also like to have an opinion in that regard.
No, as I said before, I mean, we're not in a position to say no. I just want to know what the scope of the review is.
And why don't we get that so that we can agree on that?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. So I don't have a calendar with the dates on it.
We have November 5th, which is a Wednesday, or November 17th.
Can we please get on the agenda for November 5?
That's a Wednesday night.
Wednesday night.
Yep.
After town meeting.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to continue until November 5th.
Okay. That's from Penny. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
That's from Brendan. All in favor? Eric?
Yes.
Roger?
Yes.
Robbie?
Yes.
And Frank, yes. And again, if you have other thoughts or whatever, let's try to get them out there, and hopefully we can be ready to address some more of those at that meeting. All right.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you. Good night. I need to stop for 2 minutes. You guys can play some music or whatever. I'll be right back.
I need to take a nap. Concord. Septic, that's it. That should be quick. Family. I feel sick in my stomach.
Sorry about that.
Nope.
Okay, can I open this one?
Yes, please.
Concord. Septic.
On October 6th, 2025, 6 p.m., the Scituate Conservation Commission hold a wetland hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws for the notice of intent by Samuel Watts for repair and upgrade of an existing septic system within the buffer to coastal resources located at 28 Concord Street, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the meeting is available on the agenda posted on the website.
God, it's already 8:30.
Thank you. For the record, this is Gregory Morse, registered engineer, Morse Engineering, representing the applicant, Samuel Watts. The property is at 28 Concord Street, which is in the Hummerock section of town. This is a single-family home septic repair project. It's an existing three-bedroom house on a 7,500 square foot lot. It failed a Title V inspection. The wetland resources here were in land subject to coastal storm flowage, which is FEMA zone AE 13. For reference, the topography on the site varies between elevation 8 and 9. And secondly, it's all considered a barrier beach out on Hummerock. The proposal here is to construct a new Title V compliant septic system in the backyard. It's a 1,500 gallon septic tank, a distribution box, and 32 infiltrator chambers. There's no change in the ground surface topography. There's no alteration of drainage characteristics, no fill being brought into or taken away from the site. DEP had no comments. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Greg. Jen?
Yes, agree with the resources. No comments from DEP. Board of Health is okay with it, just waiting on us. I think maybe we might want to know about a couple of the trees, how, what might happen to them in the process, but otherwise, no questions.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Brendan?
I'd say 1.
Didn't you see me shaking my head no?
You weren't up on my screen at the time.
I'm sorry. What are going to happen to the trees?
There's 3 trees out there. I believe they're kind of they're like a scrub pine or even a cedar. Those would get cut down.
1, 2.
It's a small lot. The septic has to fit there.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess I have no other questions.
Okay. Eric?
Yeah, you got.
Yeah, I think it's good to bring it up to Title V compliance, especially given the area. So I think that's really important. I'm just wondering if the applicant would be amenable to introducing 3 eastern red cedars, to replace the 3 that are being put down, for the leaching chambers, along the fence line to paper west of the plan that we're looking at. That's all.
If you want to put in the orders that the applicant will provide 3 cedar trees to be the location approved by the agent, we'll work with Jen out in the field and get 3 of them planted, if that's what you need.
Okay. Roger?
No questions.
Robbie?
I'm good with this project. No questions.
Penny?
Love an updated septic. All good.
Anybody in the audience?
Yeah.
Jen, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say no hands are raised.
Okay. I'm good with that. And I think, if they could come up with, not looking for putting in sequoias, but if there's a few trees that could be, or small trees that could be started there to replace those, that would be extra beneficial. So thank you.
Off to the side.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to close an issue, Jen, or just
Yes.
close?
Close an issue.
I make a motion to close an issue.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Penny, Brendan, Eric?
Yes.
Roger?
Yes.
Robbie?
Yes.
And Frank, yes. Great. Thank you.
Yep.
7 Buttonwood. That's another one to open on October 6th at 6 p.m. The Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws for a notice of intent filed by David and Jennifer Donovan for the repair and upgrade of an existing septic system within the buffer to coastal resource area at 7 Buttonwood Lane, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the meeting is available on the agenda posted on the website.
Again, for the record, Gregory Morse, registered engineer, representing the applicant David and Jennifer Donovan. This is a notice of intent for a single-family home septic repair project at 7 Buttonwood Lane. The lot itself is 28,000 square feet, developed with the home, a swimming pool in the backyard, and access driveway to Buttonwood Lane. It's entirely upland land area. The only resource area I've highlighted on this plan here is the FEMA flood zone, land subject to coastal storm flowage at AE 15. This proposal is a septic repair. We're reusing the existing septic tank, which is behind the garage, and we're putting in a new Presby EnviroSeptic leaching field, which is in the top corner of the plan here. It's located in the FEMA flood zone for the Presby leaching field. However, the grading over the system does not change from the topography that's there today. So it does not divert floodwaters in any way, and it brings the system into full Title V compliance. DEP had no comments. I'm turning it over to you.
Thank you, Greg. Eric?
Like another Title V compliance, I think I'm good on this one. Thank you.
Thank you. Roger?
No questions.
Okay. Robbie?
Nothing from me.
Penny?
I love this project.
There we go. And Brendan?
Oh, this looks great. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and we didn't have anybody in the audience?
No hands raised.
We've all gone to sleep. Okay, take a motion.
I make a motion to close an issue.
That's Penny. Second?
I'll second that.
Brendan got it. He's right on the... And then, so all in favor, Eric?
Yes.
Roger?
Yes.
Robbie?
Yes.
And Frank, yes. Okay,
Great.
moving on. 52 Peggotty Beach Road on October 6th, 6 p.m. Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws to amend the order of conditions issued under DEP file number 68-3094 as requested by Marianne Luongo to change the proposed location of a pool located at 52 Peggotty Beach Road. Scituate abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend, and information to access the meeting is available on the agenda.
Thank you again. For the record, Gregory Morse, registered engineer. Also on the Zoom call with me is David Hawk, who's our landscape consultant, landscape designer for this project. As was just stated, this is an amendment to an existing order of conditions. The property owner, Marianne Luongo, had filed last year to raise and rebuild a single-family home at 52 Peggotty Beach Road. The commission thoroughly reviewed the project and issued the order of conditions. Since then, we filed this request for an amendment. There's essentially 4 items here which are relatively small. They don't change the overall scope of the project.
Jen, when you get a chance, can you move?
Oh,
move
yes.
But running through what those items are, the first would be the pool itself. The location of the pool is shifting slightly. It was originally approved at 24.3 feet from the armored coastal bank. It is proposed to move it slightly closer to 21.4 feet. Secondly, we were adding a fence around the pool. Thirdly, we've reduced to the size of some of the patios at the site. The patios have been reduced in size, which results in actually a reduction in impervious surface. So there's 325 square feet less of impervious with this amendment. The fourth item is there was a proposed outdoor kitchen originally approved inside of the 50-foot buffer zone. That's been relocated outside of the 50-foot buffer zone to a new location. And then lastly, just a slight change to the driveway, which is outside the 100-foot buffer zone anyways, but a slight change to the driveway to avoid a utility pole out at the intersection of Peggotty Beach Road. Overall, again, it is a reduction in impervious. The pool is slightly closer to the bank. It's all area that was previously lawn and previous landscaped area. It doesn't change any natural vegetation. We had proposed significant mitigation plantings. There is no buffer strip here, and it's not a vegetated wetland. It's a armored coastal bank. There's over 2,850 square feet of mitigation plantings proposed here. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. Jen?
Yes, I appreciate the description that they provided with all of the changes that were happening. I think one of the dry wells was moving over to the driveway also and didn't need any particularly special maintenance or operation plans. I'm okay with this. I don't have any other additional amendments other than just accepting the new plan with the amended orders.
Okay. We want to go to here. Eric?
No, it looks good, like the reduction of impervious area. All set for me.
Okay. Roger?
No additional questions for me.
Robbie?
Nothing for me.
Penny?
I love when people come to us and ask permission to make these little changes instead of we finding out later. I like it.
Brendan?
I like it too. No other questions.
Okay. Greg, just one. Do we have anybody in the audience on this one?
I do not see any hands raised.
Did the shape of the mitigation plantings change? We moved the pool. Did that change any of that?
I don't think so.
Plantings.
It's generally in the same shape, same location. Dave might be able to give you an exact answer on that, but it's almost identical, I believe, to what was approved. Dave, are you on?
He went home.
Yes, I am. For the record, Dave Hawk Design. Yes, it did shift. It shifted a little bit toward the house over by where the proposed pool is. I think there's actually another 11 square feet more of that mitigation strip that's pretty robust. So we tried to keep that in keeping with what we had before. It changed a little bit, but we've got more square footage in it. Not a lot, but more.
So just when I see the pool there and the 21 feet I guess my question is, should that vegetation does that need to dip that close to the top of the bank?
Well, we just wanted to make sure that we could get circulation around the pool, obviously. So we do have some plantings, just beyond the pool, small bed there. So I think we had about a 5 or 6 foot strip of Cape Cod lawn is what we call it, or high fescue drought tolerant lawn that kind of gets us around there, gets us through the gate. That was the thought anyway. I mean, I'm sure we could shift the mitigation around a little bit if need be. Again, I think it's a pretty robust, square footage of mitigation there.
Overall, there's quite a bit. It's just that where that area narrows. I mean, our goal is to protect as much of the area, especially along the bank. And I just didn't know if that wound up being diminished in that spot, and if that could come back a little bit towards the pool.
So I just want to make sure, Frank, that you're seeing, because there's a lot of lines here at that location. Obviously in bold, that 21.4 foot measurement, that's to the corner of the fence.
Right.
Okay. And then just under that, there's kind of a squiggly green line. Between the fence and that squiggly green line are landscape plantings. We don't call them mitigation plantings, but that is landscape bed with plantings there.
Okay.
So the grass is from where the cursor is, just below the cursor to just above the cursor. It's those two squiggly lines. So it's a path that gets you around the pool.
I see.
But it's that green line that's squiggly. That's, again, we're not calling them mitigation plantings, but that is landscape bed. The actual mitigation plantings are what's shaded in green along the top of the
Yeah.
coastal bank.
But I
So
guess
it
to
is all
my,
vegetated.
I get it, and so that's a green strip, and so that meant that the mitigation plantings had to shrink a little bit in that area to move the pool out. It's not, if I got it right.
Yeah, I think the closest that line comes to the top of bank is 10 feet. So that's still a fairly healthy buffer. And some of the other areas we get back to almost, you know, 20, 25, 28 feet.
Okay,
I understand that point.
keeping that stabilized is probably one of the key parts of this commission's concern in these areas.
Yeah.
So as long as that's remains stabilized in that area, that to me would be the important aspect of this.
Yeah. We'll make sure it's stabilized.
Okay. All right, I'm all set.
Okay.
Have a motion?
I make a motion to accept the modifications to the plan. Is that right?
I think that's good.
I'll second that.
Second from Brendan. All in favor, Eric?
Yes.
Roger?
Yes.
Robbie?
Yes.
And Frank, yes. Thank you. Thanks, Greg.
Thank you. Good evening.
On October 6th, 6 p.m., the Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws for a notice of intent filed by Justin A. and Monica A. Oh, I'm going to kill this name. Alucio for the demolition and reconstruction of a single-family dwelling within coastal resource areas at 33 Arcielo, I'm sorry, 33 10th Ave, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information, access the meetings available on the agenda. My apologies. Thanks.
And we have Jed Hannon to present this project.
Good evening, Jed Hannon with Atlantic Coast Engineering. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. So this project, as advertised, is a raise and rebuild of a new single-family dwelling. We are in the FEMA AE 15 flood zone here. Land subject to storm flowage. There's wetlands in the rear. There's also a large maintained grass lawn area surrounding the existing house and for the proposed house. The intent, as I mentioned, is to raise and rebuild on wood pilings well above the FEMA flood zone. All the decking that you see in the rear and on the side will have 3/4 inch spacing to allow stormwater infiltration and to promote chlorophyll. The proposed dwelling will be enclosed with FEMA flood vents, smart vents. We went over this with Bob Vogel in terms of what we're proposing. We're also proposing to reconfigure the existing asphalt driveway. As you can see on the plans, that's shown on the left-hand side or the westerly side. All the utilities will be cut, capped, and reconnected. We did receive a note from the sewer department that the existing sewer does not meet code requirements. So we'll make sure that we provide the information for that, which would be a 6-inch SDR 35 PVC pipe. So apparently that existing lateral is non-code compliant, so that'll have to be upgraded. The pilings in the rear for the deck and a couple for the house fall inside the 50-foot buffer. You can see the 50-foot BVW buffer with the green line denoted. There's a total of 9. So we consulted with ECR. I know Cam Larson's on the Zoom as well. They did the wetlands delineation for this project, and they also did the proposed mitigation. And what I'd like to do is eventually turn this over to Cam so he could explain the wetlands flaggings, the soils out there, and the mitigation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have now, or we can turn it over to Cam and then just have a whole, list of
Yep.
questions for each commission members. Thank you.
I just soon hear from Cam, and then we go from there.
Great.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Jed. Good evening, Commission. Cameron Larson with ECR. As Jed kind of introduced me here, we did the wetland delineation at the site. We have a bordering vegetated wetland located to the rear of the home. It's got some nice native stuff along its upper limits, but the majority of that wetland's been severely degraded by Phragmites, as you can imagine.
Oh, yeah.
We also put together a small mitigation plan. As Jed mentioned, a handful of those pilings will be within the 50-foot buffer there. So to provide mitigation for those, we designed a small planting area to remove 340 square feet of existing lawn and plant native species, a mix of beach plum, bayberry, eastern red cedar, and switchgrass. So that'll be implemented and then maintained as a part of the natural buffer to the wetland. Fairly straightforward, but I'm happy to address any questions regarding the delineation or the mitigation plan.
Okay, thank you. I guess I'll roll back to Penny. Or Jen, actually. Jen Smith, do you want to comment first?
I'm sorry.
No, I'm happy to hear from everybody else. I did go out to the site so I could see the vegetation. It's all lawn on their property. I think I want to hear what everybody has to say about what's going on underneath of the house.
Okay. So Penny?
Yeah, I'm having an issue here. Gravel is under the decking, but a slab is under the house.
That is correct.
I don't like slabs. Why can't you put gravel under the house?
I mean, we could talk to the owner, but again, this is, we're not in coastal dune or barrier beach here. It's land subject to coastal storm flowage. So
Yeah.
as far as I know, it's allowed under the regulations. And
I'm
this is
not
what the owner
saying it
prefers.
isn't allowed. I'm just asking why you can't do it.
Right. This is what the
Yeah.
owner prefers.
All right. Well, tell them I'd prefer gravel, but at least gravel under the porches. Other than that, it looks pretty good. Thank you, Frank.
Penny? Brendan?
Like Penny, I don't like the slab underneath the house. And then currently the home is, I think, is that completely out except for the garage out of the buffer? And we're moving into it. So how much are we encroaching? What's the mitigation? Like, what's the ratio?
Okay. So to answer your question, part of the existing deck of the house is inside the 50 and the entire garage is inside the 50.
Yes.
So the mitigation that ECR has proposed is to offset that as well as with the new pilings.
And is it like 1-to-1?
Cam, perhaps you could explain that better than
I don't have the square footage of what's in the 50, Jed. Do you have the square footage of the deck that's in the 50? I assume that's what the commission's referring to.
Yes.
Yeah, the square footage of the existing deck.
I would assume no.
Or the proposed. Okay, so yeah, there's 7 12-inch diameter piles proposed inside the 50 in terms of resource area impacts. There's obviously the square footage of the deck itself, but again, we have 3/4 inch spacing there to promote chlorophyll and infiltration.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I also don't yeah, I'm not a fan of the slab as well. So, but that's all.
Okay. Eric?
So yeah, we're looking at um, not insignificant increase of coverage on this site, whether it's the proposed house or the deck. Also, the slab under the house that is also, if I remember correctly, is going to be enclosed with flood vents. So I do have concerns with those things being married together. And then just on the mitigation area plantings, am I to understand that you were calculating the diameter of each piling to determine the mitigation square footage area? Because what I look at here is part of what I think is the house being proposed in the 50, as well as a substantial portion of um, the proposed deck being in the 50. Now, I understand that you're talking about the pilings and their diameter and all of that, but the coverage is still greater than the diameter of those pilings. And with gravel underneath that is prohibiting light from, and combine that with light being prohibited from getting to the ground, it's not as if much vegetation could be expected to exist underneath that space. So I feel the 340 square feet of proposed mitigation area is quite lean for the proposed project.
Okay. Roger? Can I just ask before Roger, maybe some clarification from Jed? So there's a footprint that's shown square that looks similar to the house. Is the existing house being elevated or is the whole thing being torn down?
The whole house is being torn down and a new dwelling is being built with wood piled supported foundation.
So I guess I'm just wondering, and I don't mean to cut anybody off, but maybe it would help the other members. What it almost looks, is there a two-story part and a one-story part? I'm just seeing like redundant piles here and that dotted line that depicts part of the outline of the house. Can you kind of give us a little more, or do we have an architectural plan or a piling plan?
Absolutely. I'd be happy to share my screen and share that just so it's for clarity.
Did you submit it? I don't think we can share that from here. If you submitted it, we might have it.
Yes, I do have a structural timber beam plan.
Okay. Jed, can you just maybe tell us why that's like that? What's the idea of that dotted line and the other wrap, the L-shaped piece?
Yes, absolutely. Could I share my screen? Is that okay with the commission?
No, we don't have that set up
Jen's
that
going to
way.
try to pull
Yeah.
up what we have, but can you just explain it maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. So the cover sheet on the architecturals, it's like a picture's worth 1,000 words. It kind of explains it. So the first floor is larger than the second floor. And so, that smaller square, if you will, that's shown on the site plan represents that second floor.
Okay.
And then the first floor is those outer pilings that represents the bump out, if you will, on the first floor.
Okay.
And then all that rest of those pilings are just simply for the deck.
Got it.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Sorry. Right. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just wanted to get that clear. Roger?
No, I thought your question was good. No, I don't have any additional questions.
Robbie?
Nothing for me right now.
Okay. So we have some questions about, do we have anybody in the audience?
I don't see any hands raised.
So there was a question about the amount of mitigation and the gravel versus the slab. So the slab is under essentially the two-story part of the house, Jed. Is that right?
Yes, that's exactly right.
And so then they're figuring they can park a couple of vehicles under the house.
That is it. Spot on.
Okay.
And then they prefer concrete. I know the owner, Justin Osceola's on the Zoom. I don't know if he wanted to comment, but this is what they preferred is the concrete slab.
Okay. And then you're saying there's a skirting that's going to surround this house and deck.
Exactly. And they're smart vents, FEMA compliant flood vents.
They need smart vents, even though it's an open skirt.
So I don't have exactly the the specifications and what that's made out of, but I know on the architectural plans it shows the flood vent. So I don't know what the spacing is or if what that's made out of, that skirting. So again, there's flood vents shown to comply with FEMA.
Okay. And then I think you heard the comments from the commission members about part of this being built in the 50. And it is all on a maintained lawn. I mean, it's been a lawn. And so this area that's expanding is still on the lawn. But the thought that maybe the mitigation area could compensate more for the area that you're expanding onto into the 50, I think was comments from commission members.
Frank?
Yes, Penny.
10th Ave historically is a swimming pool in a big storm.
Right.
I am not crazy at all with skirting on this project at all.
Well, this is actually, this sits up a little bit higher.
Is it higher? See, I'm not.
Well, as you go towards Oceanside, it gets higher. As you dip down, the flooding area is actually more towards Hatherley. Water can come through there.
It's going to come through there to get to it.
Yeah, but I mean, I've never seen. I've got a lot of experience in that area, and I've never seen really significant water flow in this area. I'm not thinking this isn't like an A zone or a V zone where you're going to see water like coming over the seawall or anything like that. Water's going to come up and it's going to go down. But these houses that are actually closer to Hadley see less water than some of them that are further down 10th Ave.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this one is on the corner with Oceanside Drive.
Right.
Yeah, I'm having to visualize it right this moment. All right, but it is a much bigger house than what's there today, the first floor. Because part of it's getting into the 50, and if you look at the plan of the existing house, it's nowhere near the 50.
You're also getting the house elevated from 16.
Yes, you are getting it elevated, but you're getting a slab underneath, and you're getting skirting, and you're getting vents. I'm a little, concerned. Thank you.
We didn't have any comments from anybody in the audience, right?
No.
Okay. What's your recommendation here?
Do we want additional mitigation? Is that what we're looking for?
Definitely.
I'm just saying what's been mentioned, so we need to have some direction.
I've heard mitigation and concern for material under the house, but maybe looking for the mitigation to kind of match the additional square footage being covered or disturbed in the 50.
Yeah.
Do you want to continue this to get a revised plan, or do you want to write that into the orders, or what's your preference?
Well, the mitigation I can write into the orders. You're going to have to tell me a bit more if you want me to write into the orders something regarding the surface under the house. Do we want it to at least be permeable or permeable pavers, or let them come back with something and continue it to the next meeting?
Jed, do you want to discuss with your client and us continue it to the next meeting?
Concrete.
I know that the client is looking to get started on this fall, if that's possible. Obviously contingent on the commission's acceptance of the project. And I'm sure they'd be amenable to, pervious concrete. So at least it's, it's pervious. But they do obviously prefer a hard surface versus like a crushed stone. Just parking and then just literally walking up the stairs to their house, and not tracking stones up into the house and stairwell and stuff like that. So if the commission's amenable to it, we could condition it such that the concrete would have to be pervious, if that's acceptable.
Anybody want to comment on that?
I don't like it.
I mean, you would.
I'm the only one, I guess. But I'm very bothered.
Would pavers, if they're permeable pavers under the house?
That would be better. Solid concrete is terrible. And
right
next thing we know, I definitely want to know if they're putting skirting, what the distance between each slat is.
You want to know what the
If
skirting
I
is
could
gonna
just
look like.
comment on the skirting. So under the regulations, this isn't VE zone, right? Where it's 40% open area minimum. This is AE. There is not a requirement on open area for skirting and for siding. It can actually be full paneling as long as there's flood vents, 1 per 400 square feet. So I just wanted to mention that because that's what that's how the regulations read.
I think the applicant being open to an alternative surface other than an impervious slab would be looked on favorably. I don't know enough about pervious concrete and what that spec would look like, or any other pervious paver material that could be presented, but I think that a compromise away from an impervious slab would be amenable.
I mean, the other thing, Penny, or anyone, keep in mind, right now there's an existing house with a cement block foundation around what appears to me to be almost the same size. The existing dwelling area seems to be fairly close to the same size as that 2-story structure.
No, it's not, Frank. Go back to it's much smaller.
What I'm saying, what they're proposing is to have a concrete floor under the 2-story portion. The area that's outside that, the single-story part, they're saying that that's going to be gravel. Is that correct, Jed?
That's right on.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so
all right.
So the existing house.
Yeah.
It's really net zero. That's exactly right. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
All right, I understand what you're saying now.
As long as you're agreeing with me, I'm happy to have you.
Well, I'm not really. I am agreeing with you, but that doesn't mean I'm happy. But I am agreeing.
All right, so I can add to the conditions for the I have a couple. I don't know whether it's crushed stone or crushed gravel, but we want it to be a surface like that under the addition to the house and under the deck, something that's permeable. So I will ask for a detail on to that to be included for them to send it to us. I'll have that in the conditions. And I don't know what we're doing with underneath the house, but I hear what you're saying, that it's the same footprint of the current house.
Why don't we, if you're inclined to close, I would not close an issue. I'd just say close it and then let Jen work out the orders.
Okay.
We can share those and see if we're in agreement on that. Does that make sense?
I mean, I think that's fair, because I don't think that we want to hold them up either. Like, I don't think that that's a reasonable ask of the applicant. If we can come to a decision without having to continue.
So we'll close and then we'll issue at the hopefully the next meeting.
Get some orders pulled together. And,
okay.
All right. We can.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Look at those issues. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Take a motion.
I make a motion to close.
A second.
I'll second that.
From Brendan. All in favor, Eric?
Yes.
Roger?
Yes.
Robbie?
Yes.
And Frank, yes. Okay.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks, you too. We're down to the end here, and this is going to go really good because so I'm going to open this, but then the applicants requested to continue right away. So there'll be no discussion, right?
Correct.
Okay. On October 6, 2025, 6 p.m., which is now after 9, the Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing on Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town Scituate Code of Bylaws for notice of intent filed by Nancy Joe and James Benelli for the demolition and reconstruction of a single-family dwelling within the coastal resource area located at 46 Atlantic Drive, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to attend the meetings available on the agenda. Okay, and so I just would like a motion to continue this to the 20th, Jen?
Yes, please.
I make a motion to continue 46 Atlantic Drive till the 20th of
October.
this month, October.
It was Penny. All in favor, Brendan?
Yes.
Eric? I was going to just cut to the end here.
I'll second that.
Roger?
Yes.
Robbie? Again,
yes.
We're done. Frank, yeah. All right. What's the bare minimum we got to do here at the end here for administrative orders?
It'd be great if we could vote the extension for the Jericho Road boat ramp. This would be their first extension. I would say let's do 3 years. They have 2 years anyway with the Permit Extension Act. So,
okay, I make a motion to extend Jericho Road boat ramp orders for 3 more years.
I'll second that.
We have a hand. Up.
Colleen. Okay, I can unmute Colleen. Colleen, you are unmuted.
Hi, thank you. Colleen Burgess, 130 Oceanside Drive. I just had a question about the boat ramp extension. Is it in the order of conditions that there are any work time restrictions? I believe initially in 2022, it was discussed that they would avoid working during May through July, and that's exactly what they did this year. So just wondering if it's going to interfere with boat hauling this fall or next spring.
We'd have to look it up.
Yeah, I would need to look that up. I know there was 2 different boat ramp projects.
Yeah, I looked up the DEP number, so I think it's the same.
So you're saying right now, and I'm not familiar with it without looking it up. You're saying the old orders, they were restricted to certain times, which would make sense.
They were, but they actually blatantly disregarded them and did the work during the time that you specified not to. So you had said and got Jeremy to confirm during the meeting that no work would be done May through July. And it was actually done from the end of April to the beginning of June this year.
Well, if it's
sorry.
No. If we're continuing or if we're issuing an extension, it's the same set of orders. Whether we can enforce that,
okay.
I guess that's the way we should approach it. If it's already in the orders, then those things remain. So they're just extending that, but whether or not we can try to see if we can get them to better address that, do what we can, I guess.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I just didn't. I thought they were done with the project. So thank you, though.
Yeah, I don't know where they stand, but they must have some undone items to want to continue that. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, where were we with that one? I think I
I'd second.
seconded. So all in favor, Brendan
Jesus. Yes.
and Roger
Yes.
and Robbie
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Okay. Certificates of compliance, you're good with those, Jen?
Yes, I am good with both of those.
Okay.
Okay. Minutes. I make a motion we accept the minutes of September 22nd as written.
I second that.
All in favor, Eric,
Yes.
Roger,
Yes.
Robbie,
Yes.
and Frank, yes. Okay. I think that's it. And given that it's 9:15, I'm ready to say goodnight.
Good night.
Say good
Oh, I
night.
make a
Sorry,
motion to
yeah.
adjourn.
That's
I
Penny.
second that.
That's Brendan. All in favor, Eric,
Yes.
Roger,
Yes.
Robbie,
Yes.
Frank, yes. Thanks so much. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good night, everyone.
Night, everyone.